Saying the camera's live.
Camera's live. That means we're live.
Yep. We are recording. This is the first episode of the Secret Handshake Podcast.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Got yours truly, Derek, Dutch Oven Holland.
Taylor, White Tea, Leach.
And that's right, folks. We just introduced each other because that's how you do it.
That's how you do the proper introduction, I feel. If you're going to do it that way, why not introduce the person you're working with?
Right.
So that way you can actually show that you know them instead of, like when you go up to meet some people and you don't remember their names, you're like, all right, I'm just going to do this. Hey, this is my buddy Taylor. And
exactly.
And then you wait for them to say something.
See,
so
that is the proper way to introduce people out in public, which is the same exact way you introduce people on a podcast.
100%.
We're not self-centered, self-absorbed people that only care about ourselves. We care about each other and sharing each other's name.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. And when you do the whole thing, you want to make sure we're telling each other what's going on, speaking to each other that way, and kind of going from there.
And I am sincere about that, but not as sincere as I made my voice sound.
You don't need to.
Moment.
Yeah, you don't have to.
I just didn't want you to think that I was.
Let's tone it down a little bit. I can sense a little attitude and a little frustration. But let's go ahead and start this off. I mean, this is the show we've been waiting to start on. I'm excited about it. Obviously, the Secret Handshake, as we call it. We do have a handshake for you.
Yes,
that's the best part.
But it's secret, so you're not going to know it.
You have to be a guest on the show.
Yes. So we will be having guests on the show, but that is kind of the basis of it. You can try to figure it out. You can try to sneak it. You get some behind the scenes.
Hell, you can even try to imitate it.
But
you won't be it.
The only way that you get the secret handshake is by being a guest on the show. So hopefully after some more episodes, that means a lot more to some people, because right now
it's a start. Okay. Nobody knows what's going on yet. Yeah. But first, let's hear a little bit about you. Let's know how this came about. What's a little background on you?
Well, I think if we're going to talk about how this came about, it probably starts with you in terms of the story of how this episode is even the first episode and how we're getting started. So, you did holler at me. But before that, we've known each other for
like a week, maybe.
Yeah,
I think I just ran into you yesterday. You're at Walmart buying food or something. I don't know.
New kids. No, but so we met. Probably. You were with the Rangers back then. So
honestly, I would say that's probably as crazy as it is. Like 5 or 6 years ago. It might even be longer than that, to be honest.
Probably somewhere in that range, 5-6 years ago. But the way that magical moment happened was we were at our buddy Phil Shanbaum and Brandon Hayes, their spot here in Dallas, Texas, called what was it at the time?
So-and-so's, yeah. Or wait,
it was so-and-so's.
No,
that was where the official moment happened.
No, I think it was actually Fousey's. It's Fousey.
False. No, well, you're right. We did,
because I think that's where
we met. There,
so
but it wasn't like that's where the magical moment happened. Yeah. So if you go to the magical moment, that was so and so's. That was not the first time we met, though. That was just kind of like the rekindling of the flame.
In this relationship, it looks like one of us is really fucked up. Well, we don't remember the date.
And it was at a bar. So. But I was there, not with you, and we just happened to make.
It was a mutual friend. I thought,
Elvis is kind of like the mutual friend that we had at the time, and so we made eye contact, and you just looked at me and you just motioned for me to come over, and I decided to come over. This is your story, but I took it over, by the way. So
yeah, it's okay. You can go ahead.
Yeah, and I came over, and you were like, we should be friends, to some extent. And I was like, yeah, we definitely should.
I felt like it was more of a stepbrothers thing.
It was. No, it was like, did we just become best friends right there? And then
we were about to go do karate actually in the parking lot because there was no garage.
We would make bunk beds, but we were at a club. So
you can't do that.
But we did instantly reference each other as Falcon and Nighthawk. And 100%. That is where the original friendship was born. So fast forward to a few weeks back, and I get a little ring from
a jingle.
Yeah, a jingle from the Dutch. And what did you say?
So that's when I came to you. Obviously I've been doing a podcast with Shippy and Rants, and I felt like I wanted to do more stuff that was outside of the city limits, more of like outside of Dallas. I want something that's going to be
shout out Shippy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, awesome show. We do good there too. We just talk a little more sports. I kind of want to get away from the sports world. You're somebody that I could easily relate to when it came to that. And we always talked about the conversations we have. They just flow.
Sure.
And it's like we could literally just bounce off of things with ideas, whatever it is, whatever topic it was. If somebody said, here's a statue talk about it. We would freaking run the show on that thing.
We have had some pretty magical statue talk.
Yes, the trophies. Yeah. So then I came to you and I was like, hey, look, man, I really want to start up something. I was inspired by Joe Rogan. I definitely want to give him the shout out and the love because listen to his show and just listening to what he does and how he talks about things. It's like, man, I feel like I could do that from kind of like an athlete's point of view, and then have you as well to help out with somebody who's doing his thing.
Sure.
And up and coming as well. So I felt like, you know what, why not combine the two, talk about everything there. And we do have animals in here right now. So I apologize if you hear them barking, there's a reason. So I'm trying to apologize for that one.
No, it's all good. We'll accept your apology this time.
We're going to have a studio though here soon, just like anybody that goes through the whole process. It's up and coming. You know, they got to start somewhere.
Yeah. So in terms of the show itself,
well, that's when so like I was saying, I approached you. I said, hey, look, you know, something I want to do is I want to start something up. Are you interested in it? You were actually talking about having one yourself. Like somebody has mentioned it to you as well. If you should do a podcast. So we both got the ideas, came together. And the best part was trying to come up with the name. After we obviously decided that we were going to do the podcast and we were going to try to start putting something out ASAP, because obviously I'll be leaving for spring training, which we'll get into that in a minute. But that was the coolest part, is like, I knew that I was going to get with somebody, as well as just like I am with Shippy and Rants when we do our show, that's more sports based. This is more of a variety of all kinds of things and entertainment. I thought that was outstanding to do. So when you came over just a couple days ago, or no, actually it wasn't a couple days ago.
It was like a week ago.
Yeah.
Well, the brainstorm started on the phone. We started. Yeah. We had a couple ideas where I think one that got tossed out was Step Brothers. I mean, we do appreciate that movie,
but you can't copy that name.
We probably could have figured out a way to copy it, but that was definitely something that was in the mix. I think Derek's favorite though is
it's still like to this day. I mean, I know. Here's the thing. I do want to put this out there. Like, I'd like to just see a comparison. We already got the name, but just compare them and see what people think.
We can put out a Twitter vote, but I have a feeling that people are going to side with the comedy just based on the pure comical moment. But the name itself was the Curly-Headed Ninny Muggins. So,
I mean, with that, like, just think of the name, the Curly-Headed Ninny Muggins. Like, come on, that's actually, I mean, obviously we're taking a little bit of somebody else's kind of idea, I guess, with combinations, but we both have curly hair. The Ninny Muggins is just funny. It's like a name you're trying to call somebody and be pissed at somebody, but yet it makes you laugh when you say it. Like, man, you stupid Ninny Muggin. You can't be serious when you do that. You're going to laugh when you say it.
You might not. And I think it just all depends on the vocal inflection and the tone of your voice. I could say it in a pretty intimidating kind of way, but safe to say Curly-Headed Ninny Muggins, as funny as it was, did not make the final cut. And that's kind of the short story of how we got to the Secret Handshake.
Well, I mean, let's add though to it to get ideas. You know, we mentioned this before, is let's go outside. We ended up shooting hoops in the front yard. Well, the driveway, I should say front yard.
A game of horse.
And names were coming out. We started coming up with stuff then. And I think that is what helped. And I think it's funny to see that things like that, like with us, we can do that kind of ridiculousness.
Right.
And come up with a name or an idea. And I think that just goes to show too how good the chemistry is when we come to talking and doing all that stuff. We can click on that
100%.
That 100%. Level.
You got some work to do, but we'll bring you up to speed here pretty soon. One thing I'm excited about is having guests on the show. Today we are not having guests. This is just more of an introductory, who we are, what we do, and why we're doing this. But in terms of guests, we brainstormed last week.
We had
70 names or so of people that we want to and B are going to have.
And I mean, we're getting some pretty good people on the list. Is what we've contacted a few.
In terms of the types of people, it's a pretty broad range.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're going all over the map. It's not like we just sit in one thing and we're trying to just get like athletes or whatever. We've got the whole.
Yeah, we got doctors.
We covered everything.
We've got nutritionists. We've got attorneys. We've got, people from all walks of life, and it's definitely not just like a celebrities or, notable people type of situation, which obviously that is going to be a thing on here. But, also we just have some, really interesting friends. Like you don't have to, have some crazy following to bring value to a conversation. And that's kind of what this is about.
But I think the thing with that is, like you're saying, with the people that we're getting, it's not always going to be about having a celebrity. It's more of, we're trying to get everybody's opinions on here.
Well,
we're trying to
just genuine conversation.
Yeah. We want to have like an open open door for anybody that can come through. Basically we want, we want to be entertaining a broad amount of people rather than just having like, oh, well, they only get these type of people. No, we want everything. That's why it was funny, or not funny. It's great when you said we're going to have doctors, we're going to have people that work in the radio business, we're going to have an Instagram model, we're going to have an actor, we're going to have a guy who's a lawyer. We're going to have multiple different things. So I think that's what makes this show itself unique, is because we have a broad selection of people that's not a specific type.
Sure. Yeah, no, it definitely, it caters to, I don't want to say every listener, but there's definitely going to be something there for everyone. And so I'm excited to see what that brings. But yes, we will be having guests on. That is going to be something happening here in the very near future. But yeah, I think. But
that ties into the show too itself, letting you know that, again, we may have already said this as well, but it's a open topic. Like there's many different things. We're not set on one thing. And at the end of the day, we want everybody's opinions. That's why I said, like, for me, it's kind of like we've been inspired by Joe's podcast.
Definitely inspired. I mean, I'm a documentary guy. I don't know about you, but I love watching documentaries. And
that's the thing, is like, I like debating with that. Like, I want to hear the things that you're hearing from these documentaries and kind of comparing like what maybe I think, my personal opinion, or talking about other things like what we believe in, such as like, I know we're going to get into the topic of talking about aliens, or I know something that goes around quite a bit is flat Earth.
Right.
That's a big one. I know a lot of people getting that. Definitely. And I think I want to hear your opinion. I know I want to stay mine.
You got to be careful going into that territory.
That rabbit hole. But I mean, it's just those kind of things. Like, I want to be able to, I want everybody's opinion in here, because that's how we should see things anyway. In general, is you're entitled to your opinion. I'm going to want to listen to it.
Well, sure. And then besides the opinion, I mean, I just enjoy, interesting conversation where, I'm learning something new, or maybe I'm teaching someone at the same time, or it's just a fun conversation to have that maybe I'm not an expert on everything, but I definitely, can talk about something, even if I'm just kind of getting a little bit of information in real time about it. So I'm excited about those kind of spontaneous moments, especially with some of these people that we're going to be having on, because I think it's going to be a learning opportunity for a lot of people, but then also just, that behind the scenes, entertaining side of, these different people with different occupations and kind of different life stories. So I think that's going to be a great part of this podcast.
Even with that too, I think it helps is you get to see another side of these people too.
Right. Totally.
Because let's say, for instance, if we get a football player.
Sure.
And we might talk slight bit about football, because we don't play football. So we want,
speak for yourself, but yeah.
I didn't notice. Did you play for the Cowboys lately?
Yeah.
But it's like, we want to be able to see something different from them. We want to hear more about them. And, we also want to talk about what they could possibly be doing with their lives and their foundations or whatnot too. Sure. So I think that plays a factor. So I mean,
and then there's like the off the field life. I mean, kind of like what you just mentioned, but just like the everyday stuff. I mean, you're around all different types of people, because you're an athlete, and then, B, you end up knowing a lot of, celebrity non-athletes. And then I've been around plenty of people, but I think that the big thing here is that, like, whether you're an athlete or you're just someone that people are interested in knowing more about, there's more to them than their occupation. So like, there's the everyday stuff. Like, I dropped my cell phone and I broke the glass, and like, now I got to go get a new
shitty feeling, by the way,
like everybody else. Right.
Hold on. Let me ask you this though, because you threw that in there. Yeah. What's the longest you can go without your cell phone?
And
be for real, because
if I'm being for real, so if we took the work equation out of it, then I think I could go a good while. Because
hold on, you can't just say a good while.
Well, what is a good while? Kind of elaborate on that, because I'm formulating the thought in my head in real time. But for example, like, I just recently went to Mississippi to go see my girlfriend's family over Christmas.
By the way, great pictures too.
Yeah, thank you. But Pelahatchie, Mississippi. 1,300, 1,400 people, and Wi-Fi out there is as slow as dial-up. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not talking trash here. I love that place and have like a phenomenal time when I go. But very little signal, cell signal, and the Wi-Fi, not really a thing. It's dial-up speed.
I mean, you're kind of in the middle of nowhere.
You are in the middle of nowhere. I mean,
and there's nothing wrong with that. It's
20 minutes, 25 minutes outside of Jackson, but still that 25 minutes puts you like, you're on acres and acres of land here kind of situation. So, I mean, we were out there for 4 or 5 days, and unless we went into the city, then like that was the time I was really using my phone, if at all. So, I mean, 4 or 5 days, I just did that. And that's funny to even say it like that. Like, yeah, I could go 4 or 5 days. I mean, that sounds like a major first world problem here. But I think if it came down to it, work wasn't a factor. And I still, probably had a way just to make what I would consider necessary communication. Then I think I could go a pretty good while. I mean, people did it forever. I mean, we did it forever until recently. So. No,
and I agree. That's a great point too. Thinking about that is not having your cell phone for that long. The only thing I think is when it's actually in front of you. For instance, we have them here right now, because we to communicate at this moment. But the thing that I see is it's when you put it down, how anxious you get to see. Is somebody texting me? Is anybody checking on me or any of that
anticipation?
Like you want to get back to it. And for me, like something that's been helping me a lot more. When I go to training and stuff, I put it away. Like I have it to where I can't mess with it because it's a distraction. Totally. And it's the same thing when I'm working, doing anything in the office or whatnot. I want to make sure that I'm not just being distracted by something. But at the same time, there are things that you got to be aware of and be ready for if something were to happen, a freak accident.
Right. Like I think the point is like, and that's why I said necessary communication or necessary use is just that the real question I think people, when they ask that, you see those memes on Instagram and stuff where people are asking the same question, like for $1 million, could you go a whole year without Wi-Fi or cell phone? And it's like, okay, I don't think the question is, could you go a whole year without being able to have necessary communication and interaction with like people in society?
It's just
like, how long could you go without the social media, mindless web page aspect of those devices?
Before we even get, because I have something I want to ask you about that, because you just threw it out there. But they say statistically.
There you go. All right, folks.
Hard word, big word for Derek here. Big word.
It's the end of the weekend.
They say that you can't go more than 10 or 15 minutes without your cell phone.
Well, yeah, I think, but that's a broad generalization. But they do say that kind of thing. I've heard
but I kind of feel it is kind of true because I've noticed it myself.
Well, have
at
you
times.
Experienced the phantom vibrations where like it feels like your phone's vibrating? And people will even experience this when the phone is not even in their pocket.
Okay, now that I haven't. Now I've had it to where it'll vibrate and then I'll look and there's no text message, but then I come to find out it's an email. So that's the only thing that gets me. I know it doesn't tie as well to that. But my point is like saying something like that is
it just
crazy.
Shows how, I mean, that wasn't even a possibility of something that could exist, like a phenomena that could exist, pre cell phone. Like, I mean, if we're talking cell phones, I got my first cell phone in, I think I was 10 or 11 years old. I was in the 5th grade when I got it. And I was like part of that first generation of kids that grew up with cell phones in their hand. Granted,
Nokia, right?
Yeah, Nokia 3360.
Playing Snake?
Oh, yeah, over an infrared connection, head to head IR. But I think that's an interesting thing that exists. There's other phenomena like it, but the phantom vibration is.
But I've never experienced that one.
Oh, I've definitely experienced it. 100%. Yeah. I'll always feel it.
So with no cell phone?
I've experienced it with no cell phone, and I've experienced it with cell phone. But it's always kind of where I normally keep my phone, like front right pocket. Probably shouldn't advertise that now. Pickpocket, criminals everywhere are going to be targeting me in my right pocket.
Yep, white tees walking the streets, phone's in his front pocket, reach in there, get it. He won't even notice.
Exactly.
It's not that noticeable. But on top of that, though, when we talk about the cell phones, do you ever think about how cell phones are listening? You ever notice that, like, because I know you have social media. We all have them. I'm Dutch Evan 45 on Instagram, whatever, all that.
Yep. Well, thanks for not shouting mine out.
I'm getting ready to.
It's cool, folks.
Okay, fine. We're not going to put his out there. We're going to move along. Next category. How about bingo? No.
So the people that listen to episode number 1, I'm going to make sure that you see my Instagram name. No, but in terms of the cell phones listening.
But think about, hold on, because I want to make sure I put that out there. It's crazy. Like, we're having a conversation right now. Let's say we started talking about
Starbucks.
Because
we just went.
you went there.
Gifted it to the show.
I'm going to go ahead and put that out there for you.
Episode 1 gift. It's like when Jay-Z and Beyonce go on tour and they get their whole squad Rolexes, for the first show, I've got, Starbucks Ventis.
Right.
Ventis.
So, but the thing is like, okay, we talked about Starbucks. Now you're going to start seeing, in your cell phone, when you go to whatever, Instagram, right. Facebook, the ads now will be something to do with Starbucks.
Totally. Yeah.
Does that not kind of creep you out at all? Or on top of that, even with that part as well, because these two tie together, is we're in the car. We're going to go to Chipotle. Another shout out. Thank you guys. Right. Hopefully we can get some free food. Yep. Thank you.
Hook it up right down the street.
That shit up. Burrito bowl, burrito, whatever. No, when you show up, your phone always tells you, oh, Chipotle, here's the menu.
Totally.
You ever notice that too?
Yeah.
Or another thing as well, my last thing, and then you can put your rant in there. When you park your car, this one gets me every time.
Oh, yeah.
It tells you your car is parked here, or GPS. It'll also put, hey, here's the distance to, for instance, for me, home.
Yeah, and it knows that that's probably where you're going.
Right.
Because
like
yeah. So I mean, I know how it works, and it is weird, but it makes sense in terms of how it works. I mean, it's just them using different technology.
But is that not trippy to you?
No, it's okay. So I understand how it works, but I'm not a fan of it, and like it can be convenient, yeah, but at the same time, it's like it's pretty scary. I mean, it's one of those things where you hear stories all the time now. I mean, with all this data leaking, and whether it be a credit bureau or it'd be a bank or I think Target just recently had one. I mean, it's becoming a very relevant conversation. And one thing that you and I were kind of talking, and this kind of crosses over, is the DNA test, like the online DNA tests that are happening, right now. Like, for example, 23andMe.
I just sent mine in, by the way.
Oh, you did? Okay. And I was trying to convince you.
Yeah, you tried to tell me not to.
And then Ancestry.com does one. I think there's a couple.
That's the one I was trying to tell you that my mom had brought up to me. Yeah. Shout out to Wendy.
What's going on, Wendy?
She got me that for Christmas. They wanted to. So my grandma was adopted, so we were trying to get. She had passed away actually 2 years ago now.
Okay.
That was like another mother to me.
Okay.
Like, unbelievable. I love that lady. I mean, obviously it's my family, but it was just, she did so much for me. So it's a touching thing to me. Yeah. But so we were trying to figure out where she was born, everything, try to get a little info on that. Cause obviously being adopted, we don't know. There was no true, I guess, records is what my mom was saying. And my mom is a military baby. So we're trying to put like everything all together. And so my mom did it, and then she got me one for Christmas. And
so
she's pumped about it. I did both. So my girlfriend bought me, shout out to Tara.
What's going on, Tara?
Hello, Tara. She got me the 23andMe, .com thing, or the 23andMe thing. I did that while you were here, when we were going over all the notes. Right. And then my mom had got me that one for Christmas, which I haven't done it yet. It's getting ready to get sent out. I'm going to do it probably today. But it just makes me wonder, like, I want to know a little bit about where my family's from, and I want a little history of that. I'm a big history buff. I love that kind of stuff, but I'm curious as to where it goes.
Well, how do you personalize it for yourself? Like your personal history is like, it's just as cool, if not cooler than
because you want to know. Yeah. 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Supposedly, allegedly.
Yeah, we don't need to get into all that. Yeah, okay, we'll save the conspiracy crap for later.
That'll be another episode.
But I mean, yeah. So you were, as you're saying about that, like, I know you're not a big believer of it. You don't like it.
Well, it's not that I don't believe in it. I mean, the thing is
you're
that
threatened by it.
Not necessarily even threatened, just cautious, because it's we're on the phone the other day, and you're telling me like you're literally opening your 23andMe kit, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I would be doing that. And with the whole thing we just talked about, with all this data leaking and hacking, I mean, you don't even have to go into a conspiracy angle to just have some rational thoughts about potential consequences of some company that you don't really know from, Jack, having a record and copy of your DNA. And like, if you look at recent, news information that's come out, a couple of these companies, not just Ancestry or not just 23andMe, but several of these companies have signed deals with, third-party companies in terms of partnership and like sharing the data. And it's supposed to be private, but so was all the, credit card data and personal information that's got leaked every time we've had one of these big leaks happen now. So, I mean, I think the intention is probably good intention, but there are potential negative things that can be a direct cause of, someone having your DNA. And this is just right now. We don't really know what they can do with our DNA in terms of in the wrong hands. Like if someone with the wrong intentions gets a hold of it, I think that's a problem. So, am I going to participate in sending him my DNA? Probably not, because I just don't feel good about voluntarily, having that potential risk there. The risk doesn't, outweigh the reward. Yeah. And so, I just think, again, it doesn't, we live in a day and age where hacking and leaking, whichever version of it happens is a relevant possibility. And then if, they start signing more deals with these third-party companies and partnerships and sharing data, every time you bring on a new partnership, that's increases the potential risk because now more people have access to your data. So I don't know.
I respect that. I think that's a good argument. For me, it's my beliefs are going to be a little bit different than yours. I think I see, actually, I'll take that back. I see where you're going with it. And I think that could happen. I think that's a true thing. I think it's
a valid point. I don't think it's 100%. What necessarily every single person is going to use as their basis for deciding, because, I think about it like this. If you have, we're in 2019, what is the capabilities of technology look like 10, 15, 20 years from now?
It's freaking evolving to begin with.
Right. It's nuts. We know that and what they can do with this data. So, back to our original point, like you said, we can be talking about Starbucks right now. There's a really good chance that on our Facebook feed or some website ad or, a mobile ad on your phone today or tomorrow, you're going to see something about Starbucks.
Or a free gift card coming from Starbucks. Sorry, I'd throw that in there. But no, I think that's true. And that does
so if they can do that now, then what can they do with DNA later, or now?
Maybe they're going to make another Derek or Taylor.
In that case, that's definitely sounds like a lucrative business.
Yeah, no, I know. we're missing out on that. They're not going to get too much from another Derek, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I think too, like to your point, like having access to that kind of stuff is a little scary too.
Right.
You're getting technically my DNA, and you can use that for God knows what.
Right.
So that can be a little scary.
Of that kind of exist right now. If you've ever gotten, a passport or anything like that, your fingerprints exist. Banks have your fingerprints,
Same thing with your social security.
Social security, that's a piece of information that floats around to everyone. I think it's wild that
that's
you
something,
give that out to so many people, but it's supposed to be such a private piece of information.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Like, for instance, I'm getting ready to get a house to use for spring training.
Yeah.
I'm just renting it. Why do you need my social security for that?
They're trying to do background checks and all that. But
right. Which I get it. No, I get that. But I'm saying if I'm staying there, do you need everybody in the houses?
Right. Well, and it also just seems like,
but I respect it. I have no problem with it.
Right. But it probably wouldn't hurt because it's always been harped on. It's one of those things I was always told growing up, like you need to keep your social security card in, a sacred place basically, because you don't want that getting into the wrong hands. But for it to be such like a sacred piece of information that's like vital to our existence as like US, American citizens, then it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to have a completely different number for all that background verification stuff that, I just moved into a new place, got, new electricity.
Congrats, by the way, on that too.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We just got, a new electricity, company. We had to do the background checks when it came to, the renters or the leasers renting it out to us, and they want to know who's moving in, so, just in this process of moving in, I've probably given it out to 4 or 5 different people. Your banks have it. It seems like it wouldn't hurt to maybe have a different number or a piece of info that's used to do all those kind of verifications just to keep it separate.
I agree with that. How soon until we start using more fingerprints?
I think fingerprints is not even the big deal. I think the thing you're starting to see now is it's biometrics, right? So like that's kind of like what that whole industry is, whether it's your fingerprint or it's your retina scan of your eye.
That's what I was getting ready to say. That's another one too.
Yeah. So, and you never know. You see it in movies, but it seems like a lot of the stuff that we see in movies ends up becoming like actual, reality.
Jurassic Park's about to be a real thing. Yeah. Watch out. We're going to bring dinosaurs back.
Exactly. I don't know. I think it's one of those things where as time progresses, I think we're in somewhat of an infancy stage, so that it's kind of hard for like the average person that this kind of topic's not really, in front of them. They're not being asked to scan their eyeball every day to necessarily have like a formed opinion on it.
Yeah.
But I think as time progresses, over the next, 5-10 years, those are going to be thoughts that become a little bit more relevant to like the everyday person, you know?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's still about security. You got to take care of yourself, keeping yourself safe by giving out all that information. I mean, you're losing that secure feeling, I guess.
Sure. 100%. So, one quick news alert I want to throw out there. Little brag and update for the baseball world. Derek Holland has signed back with San Francisco.
Go ahead, say it like you did earlier. No, the Gigantes, baby. That was one of my Giants. Can I just say though, that was, I know you know baseball. It's funny. Yes, for those that don't know you, it was funny. Like I was texting, or I talked to you actually on the phone, and it was an actual voice to voice conversation. And I told him, I was like, hey man, I'm going back to San Francisco. I just signed. So when we do our podcast, we're gonna have to rent out a studio, and we got into it. It was cool. And he's like, so where'd you end up signing? And I was like, oh, back to San Francisco. Oh, the 49ers. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. I mean, we were having quick conversation. It was fast. And listen, I played baseball my entire life since I was like 5 years old. And I know that you know that I know, but just to clarify for the
I don't know. Do you know that I know that you know that he knows
I'm confident that you know? No, but I grew up playing baseball. I played through college. And so I'm quite familiar with who the Giants are, but it's one of those things you start talking fast, and sometimes a little too confidently, the wrong San Francisco team can slip out. Yeah. But back to the news, you just signed back with them for a 1 year deal.
1 year, could be two.
Got the
2 year to possibly, get the team option, which to me it was. I mean, everybody knows I wanted to go back there. I loved it there. The fans were great to me. The ballpark itself is probably one of my favorite ballparks in the game.
Well, and then you're also up in California, which, I mean, it's not Southern California. I mean, and people
but it's not like it's bad. And where we lived, which made it really cool.
Well, no, it's not bad, but it's just completely different. Like,
it's a different lifestyle.
You can't compare that part of California to Southern California. Right. I mean, it's two different vibes.
Well, you can't really, to be honest, you can't compare California San Francisco to Dallas.
Right. Oh,
that's where we live.
Obviously. Yeah.
So I'm just saying it's just cool. Like I like that area. I thought it was great. The coolest, technically I wouldn't say the coolest, but the craziest thing about up there. So we lived in Walnut Creek last year.
Okay.
And
how far away from like the Fisherman's Wharf is that? I
would say it's about 40 minutes, maybe.
Okay.
But it's crazy is what the temperature change. That's where I was going to go with it. It would be, so I would tell Tara before, you go to the game, I'd be like, hey, don't dress like you would at the house, because the temperature is going to be way different.
Right.
It would be like literally, and I'm not kidding, it'd be like 100 degrees at our house.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you get to the ballpark and it's like 60.
So I'm assuming your house is further away from the coast then.
Yeah.
Like further from the
we're
water.
up in the
closer
hills.
you go to the water.
We're next to the hills have eyes.
Right. Okay.
See a lot of those guys. Okay. So that was cool. But for me, another thing too is like, obviously the history of the team is fantastic. The chemistry is great. The staff is great. Like I love it. It was a no-brainer working with these guys. What they've done, to me, I feel like they've brought my career from the dead.
Sure.
Is how I would say it. They resurrected me.
Well, I mean, we even kind of talked about it. I mean, being totally frank, it was kind of like you call it make or break or what have you, but you kind of had a chip on your shoulder and
there was, because in which I did. I mean, the way that I also look at it, and again, my personality makes this that much better, is I played in Chicago the year before.
Right.
Love Chicago. It was great. I have nothing against the team.
It's a great city.
Everything. It was fantastic. I loved it there.
Sure. I mean,
I wish I would have. My thing is, I wish I would have done more. That's just how I am as a person. I want to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do to represent them and be something good for them. Just like I wanted to do the same thing for Texas.
Totally.
I wish, at the same time, I wish I would have got to come back and just try to finish what I had started. I wanted to make my career better than what it was. Because I know when I left here, people remembered me more as me getting hurt, those last 3 years, rather than the things that I've done, the great game in the World Series, the shutouts, and those kind of things. But my thing is to it, like in Chicago, this to me, like I got a great deal. I was happy, and I got there and I started off freaking lights out. Like it was great. I couldn't have been happier. And all of a sudden, I mean, every wheel, every part, everything fell off this bus, and I completely fell to shit. Like that's the honest way to look at it. And I ended up with a touchdown. I missed the field goal. Could have had a high ERA is where I'm going with that, like a 7.
You do know you were playing baseball, not football, correct?
Oh, I thought we were playing soccer.
Oh. Yeah. Football. My apologies.
Football Americano. So well, actually, I just said football for like football. But, that was the one thing. And it was like people looked at me as I was done. That was the big thing.
And how did you personally feel in that moment, though? Like, once
I was pretty heartbroken.
With Chicago were over, what was kind of going through your head?
I did have that fear. I had that little, like, I don't want to say I was depressed because I have been there, which that's something eventually I do want to talk about is depression, because it's something that I've dealt with in my 3 years of injuries, but we'll get to that later. But at the moment, like, I finished that year and I was like, man, this really could be it. Like,
so you had that, I had the doubt, thought that was a possibility.
Yeah. I had the worry of, am I really going to have to hang up the spikes? Like, I just showed I was healthy, but I pitched like shit the second half, and it just hurt me more than anything. So I just kept thinking, man, what can I do? And after talking with my agent, Michael Martini, shout out, he helped me out, and he was like, look, I got a couple teams that are interested in trying to help you get back on your feet. But you have to take the minor league deal. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I know that. I'm okay with it. I know I have to compete, and I'm going to do everything I can. And, San Francisco was unbelievable. They picked me up. They gave me the chance, and I felt like that was the best route.
What that means, though, for some people, when, like, maybe if you're not as baseball savvy, or maybe you are, but you don't know the behind the scenes, when you say a minor league invite.
So basically, you get a minor league contract with a big league invite. So basically, you're not on the roster, but you have a chance to get on the roster, the big league roster, which is the 20. Well, it'd be the 40-man roster first, and then the actual big league roster would be the 25-man.
So with the minor league contract with a big league invite, what does that mean when it comes to spring training? Are you with the guy?
I'm with everybody there. Okay. I'm at big league camp.
Okay.
That's the best way to put it. And so you have to compete for a spot.
Right.
For me, and I can actually say, like, as crazy as this was by far probably my best spring of my career.
Gotcha.
Pitching out in Arizona and spring training is usually the way I've always looked at it, because I was blessed to where I had a contract that I didn't have to worry so much about making the team, that I could actually really work on things.
Right. Because there's plenty of guys how many guys would you say at spring training are there on any given team that don't have a guaranteed spot? Like, how many guys do they bring up? Like, any given position?
Honestly,
like, just in total. Like, how many players
I'm going to guess, but let's say there's 50 people total.
50. And so
at the camp,
10 of those guys aren't making it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
or in terms of the bigs.
Technically, you're 25 of them wouldn't make it. Okay. So if there's 50 people, 25 of them wouldn't make it. So we're, for me, like, I had to compete for that shot. And, as I said, like, it was definitely by far one of the best springs I've ever had.
How did you feel going into spring training that year, though? With that,
the confidence was high. I believed in myself. I knew, like, that's the big thing that I always tell kids when I do my camps and stuff is you got to believe in yourself. Trust the process. Right. The hardest thing to do in this game, and I'll never forget this piece of advice, came from Mike Maddox. And every time I see him, I always thank him for what he's done for my career.
Brother of Greg.
Yes. Okay. The thing that he taught me was the hardest thing to do in this game is trust your stuff.
Oh yeah.
And what I mean by that is if I'm out there pitching and let's say I got 2 strikes, I don't try to throw harder. Right. I throw Derek Holland's fastball. Right. I don't try to throw Randy Johnson's.
Right.
Or I don't try to throw Patrick Corbin's slider.
Stay with yourself.
I stay with it. Yeah, you trust the process, trust yourself, and go. And I've always used that, and it's been huge. And then working with Kurt Young, which is pitching coach with San Francisco, and Matt Herges, who's the bullpen coach as well. Basically, they're both pitching coaches. They both got me to trust more of the process and getting myself to really believe it, and also executing. And then also having a veteran catcher such as Buster Posey and Nick Hundley. Those 2 guys helped out tremendously with making me get back on track. And then also the younger guys actually helped out too, because I had a couple of times where they were catching me, because at the time when you get asked to join a team and you're basically, like I said, a minor league guy working on a big league, or trying to get to big league camp. Yeah. You don't always get to, like, I'm following, for instance, a Johnny Cueto.
Sure.
He started, I would come in after him. So I have, I'm still getting a chance to face some of the big league guys, but now I'm also starting to see some of the other guys that are trying to compete as well. So it's not like it's an easy battle. And now it's no longer when you showed up at spring, now we get to kind of work on things. No, bitch, when you show up, it's time to go, because you got to get that spot.
Right. So for you, did that in terms of mentally, what was that like? Because like you just said, you've had times in your career where you didn't even have to really think about that. So did that change the way that you approach the game in general, or did it change
to me it was
or your focus, or what really was
my mindset was still the same. Sure. You got to do whatever it takes to get that spot.
Right.
You got to compete. Like there's no more like we can't work on things. Like you got to execute now.
Right.
But don't put too much pressure. Like that's the thing, as I kept saying, like I can't sit here and say, if you don't do this, you're not making the team. It didn't work like that.
There's a fine line between that and like getting in your own head.
Correct.
So that's kind of the tightrope that you got to walk on that. And probably like most people, whether it's that position or, they're a computer programmer at, some corporation, there's still,
you want to be the best.
Exactly.
And I mean, I got blessed with this team. I mean, there's a solid group.
This past season was a great season for you.
It was actually my second
progression
best.
From Rangers to White Sox to how you basically made the bigs. But for the San Francisco team with the minor league invite, but you had you basically had the season that you wanted / needed.
Right. And the other thing too, you got to look at is, to me, what was more important. And I know I got released by the White Sox. And again, the thing is with a lot of these, what happens is I wish more people would use these kind of things. If something doesn't go your way, for instance, I got released. Sure. I'm going to use myself as the example.
Right. No one's going to be excited about that kind of situation.
And by all means, I definitely was not outside throwing a parade and party and everything because I got released. Like I was pissed. And the way I looked at it is, I can't have you feel sorry for me or Tara or anybody feel sorry for me because I got released. I have to look at it as, okay, I screwed up. I didn't do my job. If I want to do something about that, then I need to go out and work on that and get myself where I need to be and push myself to that. So to me, I felt like the biggest positive is, and that's what I looked at was, you know what? I started out really good.
Right.
I showed that I can pitch. I stayed healthy the entire year. I didn't miss a single start. I even offered and went out into the bullpen and helped out.
Yep.
Those things to me stand out more than having that 12 ERA or whatever.
Well, it's being able to like reframe your perspective, because I think like some people in your exact same position, whether it be baseball or it be a 9-to-5 office job, if they're facing release and then they kind of got to, figure it out. Some people deal with that as, new motivation. Okay, well, this negative thing happened. Well, I'm not going to let that affect me, and I'm going to turn this into a positive situation. Other people, it's a struggle for them to be able to kind of flip the script like that and think of it in that other way. So I think to your point, that was a major, major asset for you to be able to sit there and go, man, this sucks. I just got released from this Major League Baseball team. No one wants to talk about that. No one wants to, make it a part of the conversation. But I think your ability to reframe it and go, okay, well, here's the positives that came out of it. I mean, I know the not being injured thing was major for you.
It's huge.
The whole season. And that probably played a just as much as a confidence, shaker that getting released from a team could be. Being healthy the entire season probably was the opposite of that in terms of a confidence booster, So I think that's important just to kind of keep in mind, exactly like you were talking about. Doesn't really matter what you're doing. I think, keeping that, if you're a competitor, keeping that positive mindset and attitude, and just always, trying to see the glass half full in the situation is always going to bode better for you than not, even though we all know it's easier said than done.
Right. And the thing too, that I liked is I embraced it. I knew I got released, and there's nothing I'm going to sit here and do. I know people were talking crap about it and everything, and that's part of the game. That's the one thing that,
yeah.
But to put that into another perspective, here's something that really stands out to me that I think this relates to everybody in real life.
Sure.
Everyday life is, and I'm going to use this in a baseball way, and you'll easily be able to twist it and use it in a different way as well, because I know you can relate to this, and I think the people that are listening as well will get it, is when we go out and again, like I said, baseball, I go out and I perform, and I have a bad game. I go to my locker and I sit and I think, like, that's what this is everybody, not how I'm going to do it, because I'll tell you how I do it. Is you have a bad game. We sit in our lockers and we think about, what did I do wrong?
Right.
And I mean, we're hard on ourselves, which is great.
Right.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Sure. You should always be tough on yourself when it comes to stuff like that.
Well, just having the ability to acknowledge, like, this is what could have been better.
Right.
But on the flip side of that,
But then that's what I'm saying. You sit there and you think about all the negative things. But then when you have a good game, why is it that you come back to your locker and you don't spend any time there? You literally get your shit and you go.
Right. That you should definitely dwell on both, and like, well, that's where that's balanced, you know.
Right. And that's where I was going with it is, and thank you God for the guy that helped me out with this, which is Don Cockstein, who's with the Dallas Mavericks. Shout out to him as well for helping me out.
What does he do for the Mavs?
He's the team psychiatrist. He helps out, as I would call him. He's my mental guy. Yep. That's what I always put him as. And so what he always taught me was, look, just because you had a bad game, you did something right.
Sure. There's positive in there. Yeah.
So why can't we sit and take the time when we do something wrong to look at the positive side rather than look at the negative? It's easy. It's always easy to sit and think about something negative rather than sit and think about something that you've done positive.
Right.
100%. And so for me now, what I've done, and I've been doing this my past 3 years, my last year in Texas, and then started in Chicago, and then I continued it in San Francisco, is every start, good or bad, I took my time when I got to my locker and I thought about what I did right. I didn't give a shit about what I did wrong, because I know when I go stand up and talk to the media, I can talk about the things I did wrong there.
Right.
Because that's it. I'm getting rid of it there. That's my last time I say something, because the next day, you're not going to ask me about it. Because today, or that next day, that's a new day. So if we actually took the time and sat and we looked at what we did what we did right, it'll continue to help us progress each day. And I noticed that big time this year, more than any of my years of playing baseball, because I spent more time, because it's a process. As I've always been told, you got to trust the process. Yep. Something doesn't just happen overnight.
Right. Yep.
So for me, when you take that time and you think about the positives and then you continue carrying on, you can see yourself progress and you get better and better and better.
100%.
Now, I'm not saying you're going to go out there and you're going to be the Max Scherzer of baseball and, dominate everybody, sure. But you got to work your way to get up there. If you want to be the best, you got to think like the best.
Totally.
I know I'm not the best. That's a fact. I'm not afraid to admit it.
Sure.
But I will compete as if I am, because that's how you're supposed to carry yourself.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that.
So like going back to what we were talking about from the very beginning with the going to the Giants, these guys, working with them was unreal. And something that I got to pick apart about my career, I'm no longer that power pitcher. I don't throw that hard like I did before. I get it. I was throwing 95, 96 before.
That was your consistent kind of wheelhouse.
Like it was like 93 to 96-ish, around there, somewhere around that. But my thing is, like, now it's more of working with Kurt Young and Matt Herges. They showed me more of, we're now hitting the corners more. They moved me on the other side of the rubber. There was more of establishment, more work was being done. Now, that's not to take anything away from the pitchers or pitching coaches I've had before, because those guys have showed me a lot as well.
Well, I think that's something that I keep important too, because just, through my years of playing, kind of what you first started talking about, staying within yourself, part of staying within yourself is also being able to find that balance of, you're going to have, so many coaches throughout your entire career, especially if you go beyond high school and college, which is, rare for the average guy to go beyond that. But when you do, at that point, I mean, you definitely are going to have more, coaches than you can count on two hands. That's for sure. And people's opinions and, trainers and all that kind of stuff. So it's finding the balance in terms of like what you feel and what you know about yourself and your body and your arm and, all that. And then every opinion that everyone else is stating, telling you, this is how I think you should do this. This is how I think you should do that. So I think that's
well, even to that, when you're saying like, hey, you do this, the thing that we all need to learn to do is not be afraid to try new things.
Totally.
Because and this is another great example that I got from Mike Maddox too, is he would always say whenever we would do a drill or pitching or whatever it was, he was like, you never know, you might be a good lacrosse player. That was his big example, is because most of the time, if I asked you, hey, have you ever played lacrosse? More than likely, in my opinion, I don't really know, but more than likely, I'm thinking you have not.
That is correct. I have not played lacrosse.
So with that, how do you know you're not good at it? You could be, as he would always say, you could be an All-American, or hell, you could be absolute garbage.
Should be the worst person
right
in the entire world. But
correct.
You're not going to know.
But you don't know if you don't make the attempt.
Correct.
And so that was something that I've always looked at as, man, if you're not willing to try new things, how can you actually open up new doors? How can you actually see other things?
Right.
And with that, like, that's what I'm saying. When I went to San Francisco, I had that expectation of, you know what? This is a make or break kind of thing. So I have to be willing to try things.
Right.
My teammates were, it goes again, like I was blessed with such great teammates that these guys took the time out of their day. Evan Longoria, somebody I've always looked up to, I've always competed against, and I've I've hated facing him because
Right.
he freaking raked off me. But to have him step in one of my bullpens and be like, hey, how about you try this? And he moved me over to the other side of the rubber. Nick Hundley, the catcher, was also down there. He's like, yeah, I think you should try that. It's going to give you more of a different view and a different, you're going to have more deception
Right.
to your pitches.
And just a
sure
small
enough,
tweak, right?
Yeah, it's a simple little thing. And
Yeah.
sure enough, what did it do? It took off for me. It
Right.
helped me out.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying I turned into some Cy Young award winner or anything like that, but it made a difference in my career so
Right.
far this year or
Right.
this past year.
Right.
And those are the things. And like, you got to be willing to do whatever is asked, and also be not afraid to help your team. Like, I know there was a couple times that I got to help and I was happy to. And that's just me being who I am too, is, we were kind of short on some arms, but I got to go down there and I helped. I went out of the bullpen. I helped them out because
Right.
we had guys coming back too.
Sure.
Unfortunately, some injuries took over, which God forbid, nobody wants to see any of that happen. And I'm glad to see that they're going to be back this year and healthy and everything's good. And hell, Bumgarner came back after his injury and he, as always, a dominant pitcher. So, it's those things that going back to San Francisco helped out so much with my career. Is I learned a lot more about myself. I tried a lot of new things that helped me.
Right.
And very few things that I would try that they asked me, and I'd be like, you know what, this one doesn't work. And everybody was okay with it. The thing is, we can't be afraid to try. If you told me to go try something and it doesn't work for me, it's not like you're going to be like, God, well, screw him. I don't want to talk to him anymore because he doesn't want to do my way.
I think it's like you got to evaluate it. What's the worst possible thing that can happen from this? And if
Right.
like the possibilities are more positive than negative, then like, why don't you go ahead and try that?
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with that. And that's why I think it was cool. So for me, I was excited going into this. There was a possibility that I could have come back to Texas.
Right.
Unfortunately, it didn't work out. They had stopped contacting us after Christmas as we tried to get things going. But at the same time, they're doing their thing. I got to look out what's best for me. I have nothing against JD or any of the Texas Rangers.
Sure.
To be honest, that's where my career started.
Right. Well,
I will never, ever hold
it. You got so many friendships and relationships from that team.
I'm not going to
still exist. And it will continue to exist because, it's part of the game. It's part of business. Right.
Right.
So,
and that's the key word right there.
Right.
It's a bit, key word. And I'm starting to say a sentence. Business.
Right.
Okay.
Now you're about to start getting ads on Instagram for starting your own small business.
I'm going to have that kit, whatever.
Our phones are right here listening.
They picked up I'm going to have a lot of new ads today.
We've got computers up. We've got TVs up. We've got cell phones. We're talking into microphones. There's about 4 different ways.
I'm going to have San Francisco 49ers stuff now because you made the comment earlier.
Exactly. Get your merch.
But, to finish that, I was blessed with the opportunity to possibly come back here and multiple, like a few teams, I should say, checking in and, getting things going. And I just felt like the best decision for me personally was to go back to San Francisco and do that again. And who knows? Eventually, the thing with me is I know what's going to happen down the road is I'm going to become a reliever.
Sure.
And I'm okay with that.
Right. Well, it's just part of the game, but you're not there yet.
Right. And that's, it's not that I'm not there yet. I just feel like after the year that I just had, I felt like I earned.
Sure.
Yeah. Right. So
100%.
For me, it's
You're
like
part of the conversation.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you get to reward yourself because of, like I said, when you put that work in after what I had just gone through the previous year, now I've rewarded myself another year of starting. And then who knows what happens after that.
Totally. Yeah. I think, one thing for me that's interesting, we talked a little bit about this earlier is, I've been fortunate to kind of see some of the behind the scenes of like, not just you, but just different people when it comes to like these kind of moments where it's, professional sports or, music artists, that kind of thing. And I think, one thing that's kind of an interesting, weird caveat that comes with like what you do, because people know who you are and your business is discussed, on radio and all types of situation is athletes and their, basically their salaries being known to the public. It's not something that like probably 95%, or more. I'm just obviously making the statistic up on the spot, but don't actually deal with. Like, I'm never sitting there, at home going, man, thank God my neighbor doesn't know how much I make. Well, it doesn't pop in my head because it just isn't a thing for me. But
yeah,
someone like you, is that weird to you? Does it bother you? Do you really care? You're just used to it at this point, or is it even not really a thought that goes through your mind? Because it is personal information, but to the public, it's really not.
Yeah, but there's one thing to, if you kind of put it into perspective too, and we did touch on this earlier as well, is I get it, the information's out there, but at the same time, I'm kind of putting it out there too. Think about the social media life.
Right.
I'm tweeting quite a bit. Sure. You know, I want to interact with the fans. I'm going to live events and I'm tweeting about it. So it's not like people don't know where I am too.
Well, to me, it's not about that though.
No, I know, but I'm just saying those kind of things, it's all available is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, a little bit different. Like we talked about the social security number, like we don't want people knowing.
Yeah, yeah,
and
I get that.
And for most people, like if your job isn't like a public job, right, where it's just known that like, you know, but you made this much off of this contract, most people aren't comfortable with someone knowing their salary or their hourly. Like it's typically been a taboo off-topic subject for like mainstream society. Right.
And I mean, look at how the market's going. If I put on, because I know we got the TV on behind me, but if I had put on MLB Network,
it's not bothering me, by the way. I did see your little message.
I just want to double check, you know. Hey, I know it's a great movie because I can see it off the reflection.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, if we put it on any sports channel, you know, NBA, NFL, whatever, and a contract is being negotiated, they put it out there.
Oh, totally.
So it's full blast. So for me, I mean, if you're that concerned and you want to know what I'm making, like it doesn't bother me. But at the end of the day, it's not like I'm walking around going, I'm rich, bitch.
Well, yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm not doing that.
And I'm not necessarily even asking. I'm asking more, do you think it's weird? Because to me, being someone who
I don't pay attention to it,
get discussed, you know, on news or radio, or like, you know, some fan that is just a fan of San Francisco or a fan of yours from baseball, you know, they know to me, just not being in that situation, I definitely think it's odd. And I'm sure there's plenty of people who, you know, like I said, it's traditionally been a taboo thing for discussion. Like when you go to dinner with people, you know, just any two people go to dinner, 9 times out of 10, like what you make for, you know, a living isn't going to come up as part of the discussion and just be like a well-known thing.
Well, I mean, to me, it's not an issue. I don't really pay attention to it. It is kind of funny though, if you go to like places, and it kind of goes with, for instance, if you're going to go buy a car
and treat it a little bit differently. Cause you might have,
but no,
some extra money there.
Not necessarily. Well, yeah, that too, yeah. If they know who you are, yeah, that plays a factor. Cause it's like, oh, maybe we can get more money out of it. Or it's the other way is, well, he's dressed a little funky. He ain't buying one of these cars.
Got you. The assumption.
That's the thing is like we do too much judging in this world when it comes to any of that stuff. But that's why I don't pay attention to it. So I don't care. Like for me, I'm not somebody that really gets too concerned of how I look. Like half the time I don't even match. Like I throw clothes on because you know what? This looks good to me. That's how that's, to be honest, that's how we should be carrying ourselves.
Like a wannabe New York mob gangster right there. Like, this is how I want to look. Yo,
over here, right? I got my freaking jeans on.
I don't know if anybody else heard that, but it was definitely there.
No, but I mean, but it's true though. If you really think about it, like we really look at people, and just because of how you look, they don't think you have money or whatever, which it shouldn't even matter to begin with.
Well,
whether you
matter.
have
one person it does matter for though is Jeff Bezos. Hey, and make sure you get that nose pick on the GoPro. We got the Dutch. This will be a poster we start to sell.
It's the typical boogie pick. All right. Hold on. Pick. So can I ask that? So if you get a boogie, which I don't have any, I'm trying to get it.
Let's talk about this.
If you get a boogie, hey, wait, hold on. How do you teach a tissue to dance?
Yeah, here we go. Dad joke.
You put a little boogie in it. I had to throw that in. But it's if you get a boogie, did that just fly out?
I didn't see anything personally.
All right. Debris just flew out.
Replay. Okay, we have no.
So if you get a boogie, are you a guy that you kind of look around, see if anybody's looking, and flick it, or do you put it somewhere? Or
I mean, I think this is one of those.
I know you don't eat them.
No, definitely not an eater. I think it's definitely one of those conversations. Sorry for playing with your foot just now.
I was wondering. I was like, man, who keeps playing? The dogs aren't even over here.
Yeah. No, I think everyone sees it. You've been driving. You see, you're on the highway. You're stuck in traffic, whatever it may be, and you see that guy that's just got his finger 3 knuckles deep. No.
I was thinking of a different way where the guy's got his finger out the window and he's trying to like flick it off. Well, that's the best,
right? But you're not seeing the act. You're seeing the disposal, right?
Yeah.
So. It's one thing to find the body. It's another thing to have videotape of the guy killing the dude before you find the body. Right. So
yeah,
I think it's kind of like that. But yeah, everyone's seen that moment. You've seen 3 knuckles. And I guess your third knuckle.
If you go 3 knuckles deep, bro, you're scratching your brain. I just
looked, and it would be the entire.
Bro, how big is your nose? 3 knuckles?
There's a lot of questions that need to be asked in that scenario. But I I don't know. Like, some people handle it differently. Some people, they go to the bathroom and they get a tissue and they blow their nose and try to figure it out. Some people are a firm believer in the finger, and also what else comes into play? Your nails. How long are your nails? Have you cut them recently? Depending on the length of your nails,
you could be drawing blood. You might be scratching that
blood, but it's also, it adds to your tool set. Like,
can I add one more thing into this that sucks before we go? Because I know we're trying to get to that next topic. How about a zit on the inside of your nose?
Yeah, especially when it's right on the edge where it's like halfway.
Like that makes your eyes water, bro.
Definitely makes your eyes water.
I'm like, hey, why are you crying? I got a zit in my nose.
And the worst part is sometimes they're ready to pop and sometimes they're not, and you're gonna get the most eye tearing on the times where it looks poppable, but it ain't popping.
I mean, to be honest, I can't really tell if they look poppable because they're in there.
I have an eye for it, and
oh, do you?
I do. Yeah, I've been working on it. Yeah, okay. You've been practicing your fastballs.
Yeah. How do you get down there and look at that one? That's a mystery for those that can actually see. Which the video will be out soon. I don't know how in the hell he can see up in his nose.
Well, I'll be posting a YouTube tutorial here pretty soon.
A how to?
Yeah, a how to. Yeah, and explain like I'm 5 version of it. So. Yeah, but I think we're good probably on the booger talk.
Yeah, I mean, I was just curious. I know you're trying to get away from it. Does it make you feel uncomfortable talking about boogers?
No, I just wasn't aware that was going to be on episode 1. But that's why this is episode 1.
But it's funny. It's something that's different.
And I like what you're doing here is you're saying, hey, listen, we want to give the audience a way for them to really understand who we are right out the gate, know about us, talk about us. I can guarantee you I'm talking loud enough and close enough to the microphone.
No, I know. The reason why I say it is I get to watch the soundbar and you see the difference between when I'm talking.
Yeah. So for the folks
there you go.
Home,
yeah, I see you pick it up now.
No, for the folks at home, Derek's really concerned about the audio level here.
Well, so I want them to hear your amazing voice. I mean, it's like the sound of Fergie and Jesus.
There we go. And they're going to hear it. And you're going to see that it's all sounded awesome this entire time. But we do have a little live chat window going up.
That's true. So we can communicate if something comes up.
We have some things we wanted to talk about. And a lot of this is a freestyle for the most part. I mean, we definitely are going to have offshoots. But if there's something that pops up, we're sitting here talking and it's like, hey, this might be a good idea to talk about. We got a little chat window. And so this whole time, if I was just to read it back to you, use the mic. Don't forget, ha, ha, ha. Is the TV bothering you? Closer. And it's like, all right, coach, listen, it's not my first time talking on a mic. I think
you can call me Gordy.
Okay.
Gordy Bombay.
Oh, wait.
Ducks fly together.
We haven't even been recording this entire time. Just kidding.
Yeah, I was going to say that would have gotten me pretty good.
You'll see a genuine reaction on YouTube. If you're watching this on the good old tube, you will see a fearful reaction there from the Dutch. But so I want to talk about something else. I mean, are we good to move on from boogers?
Yeah. We're done with booger picking, except for the ones that are really rock hard, knocking down a house.
That I thought was interesting, and a lot of people are talking about.
Glad you ignored that.
Is Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, I'm sure you're familiar. If you're not, he is the CEO and founder of Amazon.com. I would imagine most people listening right now know what that is.
Or have used it.
Yeah. And hey,
I'm a very frequent
Prime member. This is not an advertisement. But why is Jeff Bezos being talked about in the news right now? I mean, a lot of things, super innovative guy. But he also happens to be quite rich. And back to people knowing about your salary and how much money you make. Everyone knows that Jeff Bezos is worth $135.5 billion with a B.
Billion dollars.
Billion with a B. Exactly.
Thanks, Dr. Evil.
So that's really cool. I mean, that's awesome. Good for you. But why is that relevant right now? He, I guess, has announced, I don't know how this came out, if it was from him or someone leaked it, because that's the times we live in, but he's getting divorced from his wife of 25 years, I believe. So obviously
that's when it comes to
divorce, it's always the question of how do the assets and how does the money and resources, how does all that get split up? And, it's one thing when you make, 6 figures and you're making $100,000 a year at your 9-to-5 job. And, it's all relative, right? So to you, that's going to be a ton of money. Well, then there's also the $136 billion version of that question. And what's that like? So I don't know. I'm assuming she's probably going to be quite well taken care of. And
so they're gonna help me out here. I mean, they're gonna split that, right?
I don't know.
I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know enough of this story. So
right. Well, the big
this is more of
there's the personal side of it. How does this affect you as the person, Jeff Bezos, right? Like in your personal net worth, because the 136 billion is his personal net worth, right?
But hold on. First of all, is that actual cash or is that stock?
It's tied up in all different types of ways. Some of it's going to be liquid. Some of it's going to be stock. Okay. Some of it's going to be other investments outside of Amazon. I mean, I'm sure this guy has his hand in a lot of different businesses that aren't,
sounds like he had his hand in a lot of other things too.
Well, and that's allegedly, because I'm not sure where the breakup. This isn't junior high. This is a marriage. The divorce is coming from. But
did he write her a note and give it to her?
Do you like me?
Circle the box.
Yes.
You're a circle guy.
Yeah, I like the circle.
I was more of a check.
And if no, please explain why.
Ooh, I didn't have that one. I just took the no as all right. I failed. See you later.
Well, yeah, I wanted to understand what went wrong. That way, you could apply it to the next situation and make a better decision.
Thanks. I'm going to try this on the next girl. So that didn't work with you.
But how does this also affect not him just personally, but from a business side? I mean, Amazon's a public company. It's one of the richest in the world in terms of market cap. I mean, I think they're down a little bit right now, but they were hovering right at $1 trillion on the market cap. And so we're talking about the captain of the ship here. And even though this is a personal matter, his wife isn't married to Amazon. She's married to Jeff. Well, I mean, still, how does this affect him, emotionally? How does this affect him on his day to day? Does this, what we're talking about here is how do investors in the company, stockholders, how do they feel this could affect? And does that end up, really negatively affecting them as a company? There's a whole lot of different ways to. Well, yeah.
Unless if they were to completely just get rid of that company.
It probably shouldn't. And I'm just speaking from, I don't know their finances. I'm not a stock analyst or a business analyst or anything like that. But I think there's the way you can say it shouldn't affect it. But I think it's definitely a possibility that it could,
Right. So. I don't know enough about the whole thing. I just know obviously the divorce happening and what he does, with Amazon and everything.
Right. I mean, he's one of the richest people in the entire world.
Right. No, I know that part too. And my thing is like, I mean,
divorce is divorce, but there's there's levels to it.
For me, it's something you don't want to see.
You think you had a prenup?
I have no idea. I would. Yeah, but I think we're past that now. You're 25. You said 25 years.
25 years into it, but you don't. You always hear these crazy arrangements that different celebrities have, and then you always see the people in Hollywood that they just met a week ago and now they're getting married, and then.
Well, yeah.
So I think. I wouldn't be surprised, if there was something in play at some point, but at the same time, they might not have had that arrangement. I mean, obviously this is pure speculation, but
right.
It's definitely interesting to everyone because when anybody hears that one person has $136 billion and they're going through something like this, it definitely is going to be talked about. And then on the flip side of it, it's like, man, I wonder how that plays out. Did she just get paid or, how does this end? So I don't know. I just think it's something interesting right now. Amazon is a big part of, I'd say a vast majority of at least Americans' lives.
I was going to say, that's definitely part of mine.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not afraid to get on there and splurge quite a bit and getting all kinds of things. I mean, to be honest, I think it's one of the greatest things that's come out, Amazon, because it's well, it sounds like I think our battery has stopped for a second.
So you keep talking. We'll keep talking about Amazon. I'm going to switch this back.
I'm going to wait
real quick.
Yeah. Well, my thing is with Amazon is it's useful as crap. I mean, you're literally buying all kinds of things. No, here, let me see that. So the thing is, it's the battery. So if you just throw me that.
Don't do that yet. Stop the recording.
It's not recording. Yeah, it's off. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's dead. Sorry, guys. We're trying to get the camera here going so that way we can.
And I'm saying we keep this in here because this is just.
It's part of the show. You're not supposed to take that out. That's part of it. We learned that from Joe. Okay. Joe's podcast never stops. Now, hold on. I'm getting the connection back up.
I got it right here.
I know, but it's connecting here is what I'm saying. But for me, like I was saying is, did you turn it on?
It's on. All you're going to have to do is hit record.
I know. I got to connect it. It's not showing up here.
Sorry, folks. This is
We're having a slight delay with the camera.
we thought we had two cameras. We
did.
We do. We just don't have the memory card for the other camera. So,
So as I was saying, like the big here, if you want to throw that back up there, the big thing for me is, you know, as somebody who uses Amazon, you have so much access to basically everything on there, and that's what makes this so special. Is like, as somebody like me, I literally pick out all kinds of things and purchase it because I don't feel like possibly going out. Like, for instance, as a Christmas gift, I just got Eric, my neighbor, which he'll be on here actually one day. He's a lawyer here in Dallas, but I got him a truck bed cover. And I mean, it makes it, thank you. And it makes it easier to just go ahead and get it delivered to the house. And then, you know, if you want to go take it in, get it put on, whatever. So Amazon, to me, I think has opened the doors for those people that maybe can't actually get out and get it.
There's the convenience factor, but there's two ways. What you're talking about is like someone that can't go out and get it. That's a very helpful service to be able to just have it show up.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But it also plays into like, this is the current society and how infatuated we are with like instant gratification.
But you can find, and that's what makes it so good. You
could literally look for a golf ball with a photo of a volcano in Hawaii, type that in, find it this morning, and then
it'll be here tomorrow.
Well, you could even go for same day delivery now.
That's true. Yeah. You know, more than likely on something like that. Yeah. But yeah, I agree.
But I'm just saying the concept itself is pretty wild. And it's one of those things like, again, people are I think we already take it for granted because it was such like a progression, right? It wasn't always like this.
But that's the way that the world has evolved.
Right.
If you look at it as we've kind of, I mean, I don't mean it in this way, but it's like we've kind of developed a lazy way. Because I mean, now you can go get groceries. You can get
and you did hit record
food. Yeah, we're completely going. We're live.
Yeah, food, like restaurants, you have the delivery option.
You can get another GoPro.
Yeah, you can get another
because that one's not working, or memory card because that one's not working.
Yep.
No, it's amazing what this. I don't know if this is the actual starter, as I would put it, but Amazon has opened the starter like it started. So there's Amazon, and then all of a sudden Uber Eats came out, and then Postmates, all that.
Right.
So all these things, like
the dominant one,
right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, 100%. And you can literally, like we said, you find anything you want, it's on there, and you can get it right away. And it eliminates for me I shouldn't say for me, but for everybody, there's no more traffic. Like, think about, a perfect example is the holidays. Look at Christmas. I guarantee you there was more Amazon Prime, which I'm guilty of it. I was one of them. People shopping there than actually going out to the store. But I did both this year, so I kind of could say
some things work. You know, I think for a lot of people like myself, I'm the person that's going to read like every Amazon review on something because I want to know like it's the best possible version. Because you go on there and search for, you know, a robotic vacuum, and you're going to have 5,000 robotic vacuums. Like, I mean, that's an exaggeration, but you get what I'm saying. I mean, How do you know you're buying the right one? And I think to your point, where you still did both the brick and mortar, you know, physical in-store shopping, and then the online is, you know, some items you definitely want to be able to touch, hold, feel, you know, certain things where it doesn't make sense to just, you know, order it on a whim without kind of having that reference point for it, you know, in store. On the flip side of that too, I'll go in stores sometimes and just look at the physical, you know, item in store. And then I know I can get it for $50 cheaper on this website. So then I'll go order it from that website. But I still did the process of like, you know,
you did the process of elimination. You went and seen,
like, you know,
yeah. And I think, like I said, that's a huge plus to having that. And I mean, it sucks that that's something that he's going through. You never want to see somebody go through something like that, especially if there's family involved too. I mean, I don't know if he has, I don't know enough about this whole thing to really get into it as well. I mean, I love that you're throwing it out there because you know, I'm going to give you some of the input that I think, you know, my own personal opinion.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like the company itself is what stands out to me. And Amazon is, I mean, it's a part of my life for sure. Like I'm guilty as crap. I mean,
what Derek's saying right now, folks, is this
I like
is
to
his
go
plea
shopping
to Jeff Bezos to include him in the divorce settlement, and
more of like the will.
Yeah, or if maybe he could be the follow up.
Yeah. What the follow up? What am I? The rebound?
Yeah, you might be able to fill that void.
No, come on, now you're trying to get me in trouble here. I'm taken. I'm not trying to have another divorce
I
or
apologize.
Relationship breakup.
But we are talking some serious cash.
No, it's definitely cash. That'll work out for both of us there.
Yeah. So another favorite person that I feel like you and I both are fans of.
Well, hold on. I want to finish up here with the Amazon because before we tie into that, a little
too far ahead of myself.
Yeah, we definitely jumped up. Is how much do you think Amazon is truly used? Like I said, for the holidays, I know we kind of got away from it for a second.
From what I understand, the biggest part of their business is actually not, in terms of the most profitable and revenue generating, is not the actual online shopping portion of it. Because you got to think, especially if you're a Prime member, you understand the benefits. Like if I order something today and 10 days from now, I decide I don't like it, or I just decide I don't want it or need it, I can send it back. No questions asked. They're going to return it, refund my money. There's definitely loss happening there. There's shipping costs being lost. There's also the product itself. So all those things are definitely going to be affecting the bottom line when it comes to the profit that the shopping, e-commerce side of the business is doing. From what I've heard though, and I'm really just in general into technology, one of the biggest portions of their business and revenue generating sides is the cloud technology. So like the data storage and like their I forget the actual name. Let me look it up real quick.
Well, even with that, like I'm going to add to it with the whole data thing. They can remember.
It's their web services cloud, the AWS service from Amazon. So I mean, and not to cut you off, but they've got deals with the CIA.
Oh, you meant
got deals with major corporations that are literally there hosting, thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of gigabytes worth of data, and that's proven to be a super lucrative business. So like again, from what I'm just kind of going off of what I remember hearing, that is the biggest part. And then on the flip side of that, the online e-commerce side, the Amazon delivery with restaurants and all that kind of stuff, that is the kind of almost the future of the business, where it's like they're working the kinks out of it right now. They're trying to eliminate as much competition as possible, to where at the end of the day, when you wake up and you go, hey, I need some new trash bags for the kitchen, that you're just hopping online and you're talking to your Amazon, Echo, and saying, hey, order, me some new trash bags, instead of going, hey, I'm going to get up and go to Walmart and go physically grab that right now.
With the whole Amazon Echo and all that stuff too, it ties in, because what I was going to say is, with Amazon, I also like to, as I'm going to jump back to the Amazon thing, the Echoes and all that. But with Amazon, if you like, what I like a lot about it is I'll purchase something and down the road, I've probably forgot what it was, and I probably need another one. For instance, I got some air purifiers here, and maybe I need a filter. Well, shit, I forgot what I got.
Well,
it has everything on there. So I think that's what's cool, is it never takes it off. And it finds things for you. And this gives me more of that guilty, like, hey, like you're shopping a lot kind of thing. Is it tells you, hey, you might like this one. For instance, this Kermit the Frog that's right here beside me. He's obviously from Amazon. Actually, I don't know why I said obviously, but he is from there.
Yeah, it's got a Kermit wearing an Amazon t-shirt over here,
waving his arms like he does in the GIFs. But it's one of those things that, to me, it keeps track of everything. And I like that, because a lot of the times, like if I go to the store, I forget if I've gotten that stuff before.
Well, too, on the flip side, it's back to privacy. So it's learning about you. It's definitely, here's more data that's being collected on you, like we were talking about earlier with the DNA testing. And it's like, they can really start to do some pretty powerful things with that stuff. So, your purchasing behavior is one of them. So it's exactly what you're describing when, you're on a product page on Amazon for whatever you're looking for, and you scroll down, you got your reviews, and then you've also got your, hey, other people that were looking at this were also looking at these items, and commonly bought together with the item you're looking at right now is this item and this item. It's all, upselling opportunities, but what better way to do it than specifically base it off what we know are your purchasing behaviors and things that you're interested, because we know what you buy, so, there's a big debate. I don't want to say big debate, that might be an exaggeration, but it's definitely a relevant piece of conversation in the business world right now, where people are, startup companies are a little leery of putting their products for sale on Amazon. And the reason that is because we're talking about, data collection, right? So let me just make up a scenario. Let's just say I've got the hottest new shoe I mean, when I say hot, we're talking like 98 degrees Nick Lachey hot. Yeah, it's up there. Not quite 100, but 98 degrees.
98.
Yeah. And so the thing is, though, is let's just say you got the hottest new shoe on the market, right? I'm just making that up. And you sell it exclusively on Amazon. Well, if it's the hottest new shoe, and this could be any item, it doesn't matter if it's technology or if it's a clothing item, whatever it may be, but you're the startup, this is your idea. Well, you're literally handing over all of the sales data to Amazon. Why? Because that's where you're selling it. They're going to sit there and go, man, these guys are selling 100,000 pairs of shoes of this particular shoe every month. I mean, why don't we just go ahead and make our version of that exact same shoe, because we already know it's going to sell like crazy. We'll make it a little cheaper in terms of cost for the consumer. And then slowly they start to kind of almost inch your product off the shelf because they have an Amazon Basics version of it. Or another example of that would be Whole Foods. So, I mean, I go to, Trader Joe's and Whole Foods are probably my two main spots I go to. And at Whole Foods, shout out. I would love a better discount than you currently get at Whole Foods with your Amazon Prime membership. It's like, yeah, you just spent $100. Here's 10 cents off.
It'll make a difference. Yeah, in like 20 years.
Yeah, I can't even get a Happy Meal with that right now.
You're not happy, that's for sure.
Another example of that, in terms of just getting data and using it to your business advantage, but at the cost of another brand or another company, is I get these shots. So it'll be a juice shot, like a cold pressed juice shot. There's a company called Core, KOR, that I was getting almost on a daily basis. And these are, I think, $3.99 for I think it's like a 1.5 ounce shot. So I might get a ginger shot. I might get, they've got 3 or 4 different ones that I would kind of cycle through. So I was getting these all the time. The boxes were empty when I was going in there. Well, Amazon, AKA Whole Foods, takes notice of this, and next thing you know, it's maybe a month ago, I see a Whole Foods branded version of this exact same thing, except they are giving you a 1/2 ounce more of the ginger shot or whatever flavor you got. And then they're doing it for $1 less. So if I'm sitting there and I'm looking at Core, what I normally get, and I look to the left, and all of a sudden I see a Whole Foods ginger shot that looks exactly the same, but I'm getting more for it and it costs less. Which one am I going to buy? Well, I can tell you, I've been buying the Whole Foods version now. So that has to affect Core. And the way I look at that is, at a certain point, it's going to affect Core so much to where it doesn't make sense for Amazon to keep buying Core's product when more of their own product of the same exact thing under their own Whole Foods branding is getting purchased. So there's a lot of people, when it comes to Amazon in general, that they're a little worried by that. Because one other example, and this will kind of be the end of my rant on this, but everyone knows about Ring doorbell. And then also
I've got one.
Yeah, I've got a Ring doorbell as well. Shout out to Shaquille O'Neal. Maybe we get Shaq on the show.
Shaq Daddy, yeah. Shaq-tastic.
Yeah, he definitely came up on that. But and I'm making sure I don't flip this. There's also Nest. So Nest does thermostats. Nest does, fire, smoke detectors. They do all types of stuff, but they also do like the doorbell camera. So this is maybe a year or two ago, but Ring is killing it, and Ring is selling on Amazon. Ring is also also on Amazon is the Nest. And so you basically have two competing products, right? Then these are I would consider the two mainstream brands. But then on the flip side of that, you also have a bunch of these knockoff brands that no one's ever heard of doing the exact same thing, also being sold on Amazon. So Amazon, again, they have the data. They're sitting there watching, man, Ring is selling, 100,000 units or 200,000 units a month of this doorbell camera. Well, Amazon then approaches Ring and they just say, hey, we want to invest in the company. And next thing you know, Amazon, I don't know if they acquired it or if they just bought a significant stake within the Ring doorbell company itself. But the direct result of that is, well, now Amazon has more interest to sell Ring on Amazon.com. So you actually can't, and I'm assuming this hasn't changed, but when this all went down, Nest products went off of Amazon.com, and only Ring were the ones you could buy. So, it's an interesting time right now where, with entrepreneurship and like you want to start a business and a company, that's now something that you kind of got to keep in mind. It's like, okay, well, I would love to get it on, probably one of the top online marketplaces in the world, which is Amazon. But what if they find out that I've got an amazing product and, the life of my product or brand is cut short because they pick up on the fact that that's a hot selling product. We can make a cheaper version of it for it, and we can market it better than you can because we own this site. So it's definitely like a risk that, is a relevant part of the conversation right now. But I think that's just kind of part of technology evolving. And
I mean, even with the technology evolving too, like when we go to these Amazon or the Echoes and the Google assistants and all that stuff, those things are also to me kind of trippy as well. Cause it's like they're listening in on everything that you're doing, which we've already talked about that. But I mean,
it's
there's no need to,
part of your everyday lives.
Right. Everything's listening in. And I mean, there's no need for us to continue to, hound on that or harp on it, I should say, because it's, we've already kind of covered that. But with the technology side of it, though, something that I have that has already been brought up about it's of somebody else is a Tesla.
Elon Musk.
Yeah. And so with that, like by far, that might be one of the greatest purchases of any of my vehicles I've ever bought.
Well,
it's the smartest thing I've ever had.
It looks amazing, but then the actual technology that it has,
it keeps evolving is the thing.
Right?
Yeah, it's unreal. So like, and I know we've talked about Joe Rogan's podcast and how this is why our whole thing started. Well, listening to when he had Elon Musk on is incredible.
Oh yeah. I mean,
the guy is a genius.
I've probably personally listened to, I want to say every single Elon Musk interview, but I've combed YouTube and I just love hearing that guy's opinion.
Right.
I mean, he's a really interesting guy, and you can think whatever you want to think about him in terms of just, he obviously makes the news and can have some controversy behind him, but that kind of goes with the territory of anybody of notoriety, dealing with that. But outside of what you think about him, if you just look at the accomplishments and, from like a kind of world changing standpoint, he's doing some incredible things. But I mean, back to just Tesla. I mean, if you were to say to someone, 20 years ago, could you imagine your car driving itself, and driving you to work or, doing any of those things? You'd think, okay, well, maybe it's possible, but it also is a pretty crazy and ambitious thought. And here we are today, and you've got one. I mean, the car can drive itself. I mean, it's not, ready for the whole world to experience where everyone's cars are driving them by themselves. But I mean, what's that like? Have you tested that out yet in terms of the self-driving?
Yeah. So I have the Model X P100.
That's the SUV, right?
Yeah. It's the SUV looking. It's got the
go up.
So even before, cause I kind of want to throw that in there cause you brought it up now too, it has these, they call them the eggs, I think is what it is.
Oh, the Easter eggs.
Easter eggs,
right? Little hidden kind of
like
tricks.
Little, yeah. So I found out you can play, I think it's Galaga or Asteroids, however you want to put, same thing, basically. You can play that and you're using the steering wheel, which is sick.
Right.
And then obviously you got the Christmas thing where the doors come up and everything gives you a little show. But these are things like you don't see cars really do. Like this is what's crazy about it.
Owning a car fun. Like owning a car for most people is a necessity. I mean, you can get by without one, don't get me wrong, but for like most of society, owning a car is a necessity. So like that doesn't change. But what I think you're talking about is like, it is exciting and fun to own that specific car, because it does everything that your car does, but it can also dance to, Siberian,
it does its own
Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
It's got its own dance revolution.
Yeah, exactly. So and that's what I like about Elon is, you got this incredibly smart guy, but why can't, the same incredibly smart guy have a ton of fun as well? So that's
why I think he makes the whole technology side fun,
right?
By giving you a car that can literally do basically anything. I mean, this car, so the word is that, it's very hard to slide in it, or not. I shouldn't say slide, but it catches itself in snow.
Right.
So if you start to
drive them on ice,
so it catches. Like that's the thing. Like for a person that I came from Ohio, we get a lot of snow, and a thing you see up there a lot is people tend to, when you push the brakes, that's a panic and they slam them. And now we start sliding. Well, the trick is you're supposed to pump your brakes. More than likely though, you're not going to pump your brakes when it comes to that time. So like some of the things with this car is it literally has a mind of its own. Like I feel like it literally adapts and grows with you each time you get in there. It's fast as shit if you get the ludicrous version. I have a Lamborghini. It's faster than my Lamborghini.
Right. Well, it's with the electric cars, it's all about the acceleration. Like,
there's no shifting.
Yeah.
Now, here's something though that I do want to add.
And how quiet is that thing, by the way, too?
Quieter than us talking right now.
Exactly.
You definitely it would be an actual good studio to actually do recording it.
Right. Yeah. All future podcasts, all the Secret Handshake will be exclusively recorded in Tesla Model X's, regardless of our location. And
yeah, we can go anywhere we want.
Elon, we're going to go ahead and need you to facilitate the new studio.
But the one thing that, and I've heard this too, there's two different things I was going to put here. But the first one is, I know a lot of people talk about you save money because you're not buying gas. Technically, the way I look at it, you're kind of not. If you really get down to it and you think about it. Think about you're charging the car, which is electric. So when you plug it in, you're paying for that, which is going to chip into your electric bill.
Well,
now, it's not going to be something drastic.
Less than what you would pay for.
Correct.
Like put it like this: the per mile cost per gallon of gas is a lot cheaper than the per mile. Or sorry,
100%.
Is a lot more expensive than the per mile cost per mile for electric fuel. Essentially,
correct. I know exactly. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Right.
But I'm just saying it. When you hear people say, well, I don't have to pay gas anymore. Well, you're still.
Yeah. And then the car's still going to have wear and tear. But, and I've watched a few videos on this when it comes down to like the true cost of owning a Tesla, because for most people, they don't have a reference point for that. So, and probably a better way to put it is not just Tesla, but any electric car. What's the true cost of having one of those? And so.
Now, when you say electric car, you're meaning the pure electric, not the hybrids.
Correct.
Because that's something that some people like to put into that is, well, I have an electric car. Technically, yes, you do. But you also have a hybrid too.
Like a pure electric, and you're starting to see more and more of those come out. But the other thing, like with the Teslas, is up, and I think it just ended. Actually, I think they cut it in half, or it's completely gone. But if you were to get a Tesla over like the last couple of years, you got a $7,500 tax credit at the end of the year because of the the energy efficient aspects and kind of like the I guess relating to just like carbon emissions and all that kind of stuff. You're not adding to the carbon footprint really by having this electric vehicle. You're actually helping it out. So the government's rewarding people, or was rewarding people. So there's a lot of different perks. One thing I got to ask is it weird? I mean,
well, I still have to answer your autopilot thing,
right? Because
I never got to say that, and that's, to me, I use it a lot. I'm not gonna lie. Tara, on the other hand, she says she doesn't trust it.
Sure.
Which is crazy because the car, nothing against her, because I see it too. Like, I feel the same thing.
Yeah, that you're going to see a lot of society have. It's like, think about when you first took an Uber ride. Like, that concept for a lot of people is crazy. Like, yeah, I'm just press this button and a car
this guy shows up. Yeah.
And I'm just going to get in this stranger's car. Well, it seemed like an odd concept. And I remember hearing people saying like, you'll never see me doing that. And like, if you were to try to think of society, right now without Uber or Lyft or any of these ride sharing, opportunities, you would think that was crazy, so it's like, it takes time for people to kind of adapt and go, okay. Because at the end of the day, you've experienced it. I've watched plenty of videos of these self-driving cars. And when you see,
I get to see a lot of them
sitting in the front seat.
That's trippy.
Steering wheel moving and acceleration and lane changing and all that. It is definitely.
I got to see some of it in Arizona during spring training. They had some of the cars around there. But with that though, so for me, the autopilot, I like it a lot. I use it. To me, it just makes things a little more relaxing because the car itself is going to react 20 times quicker than you will.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's seeing,
which is trippy.
It can see further than you already.
It sees the cars in front of the car in front of you.
Exactly.
Which is, so when you're driving it, so if you use your computers in front of you, that's your screen, seeing your speedometer, all that stuff, the dash. And as you're going, you see cars show up. Like, you'll have your image of your car, and then you'll have the lane, and then in front of that could be a car. To the right of you could be a car, and to the left of you could be a car. You see all those, which is crazy. You don't see that on most cars, and it picks up everything. If somebody starts to slow down, this is before you get an autopilot. If they start to slow down and you're still going the speed or increasing, it notices it for you and it will stop.
Right. It's going to make that adjustment.
It's a safety car. It's the safest car on the road.
You know what else is an adjustment?
What else?
I have to use the restroom right now. So I'm going to let you keep talking and I'll be right back.
Okay. So with that though, for me, with the big thing I want to throw out with the whole autopilot, and I know T is going to miss out on some of this, is it's amazing that how this thing can actually go cruise, switch lanes, increase the speed, slow down, react to the cars that are all around you. You don't see too many cars doing this. And I think that's something that the society is missing out on, is having these cars here. It does make a difference. It keeps, obviously, I feel like the people that are in the car safer as well. But for the people that don't trust it, I think it's something that just experience it, feel it, try it out, let it run its course. And I mean, as it always does for you when you're, for instance, when you are just cruising along, it always tells you to keep your hands on the wheel. It wants to make sure you're alert, you're paying attention to what's going on. I think that's the biggest issue with a lot of people is they get too worried about the whole texting and driving. They're not looking, which to me, texting and driving, you're by far more of a dangerous driver than most, because you're not even paying attention to the road ahead of you or any of that stuff. So I'm not saying get a Tesla so you can text and drive. That's definitely not where I was going with that. But my whole thing is with the autopilot, it's really incredible to be able to use it, because now that there is a new update as well, to where if you get on the highway and you set the destination of where you're going, it will take you all the way into that last exit, to your exit, and it'll actually get off the road, which is incredible. Now that just is something that's just happening.
So you're taking over at the last exit.
Yeah. Once you get onto the highway, as your GPS is already set, you put it into autopilot, that thing will take over for you and get you to that last exit. And it gets so interesting, as I was saying, you took a break for a second. When you take some of these turns too, I heard
everything.
Oh, you did? Okay. But it feels, it's crazy when you go to take the turn and you're going at the rate that you're going. You know, if let's say the turn says 65 and you've got your speedometer set to 75, it's interesting is how it reacts. Like sometimes it'll slow it down a little bit. Like it's like it knows.
Right.
Another thing that I've noticed that sometimes it'll do is it does know the speed limit, which is crazy. So let's say, you're cruising on the highway and you're in autopilot and you're at 75. All of a sudden the speed limit drops down to 55. The car reacts to that. The car slows down to 55. Yeah. This car is like, and I know I keep repeating myself, but it's a fact. This is one of the smartest cars ever. Sure. Yeah, 100%. And I mean, that's cool. Like I've got some cool cars. Whoop-de-doo.
Right.
This is by far the coolest car.
And then just back to Elon, like the guy, and obviously he's got a huge team at Tesla.
To that, and with Elon too, I've heard now this, I don't know where this is going, and this could help with wherever you were about to go with your topic there, is I've heard that, do you remember the game F-Zero? Did you ever play a game like that?
Man, it sounds familiar, but
okay, so basically it's a racing game, and you're on these hover cars that drive, and when you get hit, you drive through this platform.
Yes.
Okay, yes. So you know how you got to drive through the platform and it heals the car up. So Elon, I heard, now I could be wrong. This could be something that maybe I just heard and it just wasn't the right way.
Right.
Wants to make roads that we can drive on and charge the car at the same time. Yeah. Kind of like an F-Zero topic.
And I've seen that. I've seen roads that can generate electricity because the roads themselves are made out of solar energy absorbing technology. I think it's going to be really interesting to see where we go when it comes to transportation. I think what you're going to end up seeing happening first is probably mass transit, like city buses and that kind of thing that are probably some of the more mainstream versions of the self-driving cars. Like you're going to have people that own Teslas, but in terms of like your everyday person getting that first experience.
Well, they're making them now to where you can afford them though. Like the smaller versions.
Not only that, but I'm also referring to the guy that makes $8 an hour that would never be able to afford that, or the homeless person that needs a ride. I think you're going to see mass transit, like city buses and that kind of thing, be a lot of people's first experience. I mean, if you think about it now, you get on a subway in New York City somewhere, you're in Brooklyn, there's going to be a train conductor, but at the end of the day, you're just in one of many cars and you have zero control over what that's doing. You got a guy sitting up front that can override it, but it's the same concept here. I mean, yeah, that car is driving for you, but at any given time, you can take over that wheel and you can take over that accelerator and you can control it. So I think it'll be interesting to see where it goes. The adoption rate, I think that's going to be the most interesting thing, is how quickly does mainstream society become okay with getting in a car that's going to drive itself. And it's exciting. I can see where the fear can come in. But Elon is a beast. He's kind of like the modern day, and you've probably heard this comparison before, but supervillain's not the right word, but he's as interesting as like a supervillain doing
he's like
extremely
the next
positive. Yeah, there you go. And he's also made cameos in Iron Man before. But yeah, maybe one day we can get him on the show. I know I've got a couple buddies that are friends with him. They hang out with him all the time, and they say he is a really just cool, fun guy to be around.
It'd be fun to learn a lot of things from. My thing is too with that. What I know we have these electric cars and stuff, but what do you think about like if they took like, let's say that Tesla, what if I put like a solar panel on it?
Well, yeah. And
that's where I'm wondering if that's going to evolve.
Well, he also had the solar roof panels, like, like the roof.
Yeah, I'm actually getting into those.
Okay.
I am in the process of getting another house.
Okay.
And that's why for now, our temporary studio, as we're calling it,
right.
Is this for the time being. But with that being said, though, I've looked at his tiles to put on the roof, they were roof tiles to the solar tiles.
It's basically replacing the traditional, roof tiling. So there's all different styles. Well, this concept is instead of the roof tile being, a useless inanimate object, other than the function it serves of like protecting your roof, this actually is generating electricity, not just for you to use, but then you also to sell back into the grid to, make money.
And
almost like it's going to have some return on investment, just from a cost saving standpoint.
I mean, it's your natural resource.
Right. And it's pretty smart. It's something that everybody uses. So even with the cars, I don't think you're far off from seeing Teslas come with, solar panel, solar panel, whether it be roof tiles or it's built into the sunroof. I could see it just being part of the glass at a certain point. The way the technology evolves.
And the only reason why I say that is because as somebody like for me, I have my Tesla and I would love because it's such a great ride. It's smooth and everything to be able to travel a lot more.
Well, you are limited to how much electricity is stored in the quote unquote tank, right? So on a full charge, how far can you go?
So, and I could have swore, and again, I could be wrong, but I had 275 when I bought the car. There was an update. Now I'm at 285. Now I could be wrong. But if I'm not, yes, that's where I'm at now. 285.
285 miles would be your max essentially.
Right. But I've seen that there's updates
in there as well.
Yeah. And I don't know. I've never crossed.
We're making assumptions, and we're going to test those out on a future podcast where we try.
We're going to run out of battery
to go past 285 miles.
But it's the thing that like gets me with that is if I were to drive somewhere and then you got to stop and charge, and this sounds so greedy of me to say, it's like you literally are like, well, man, I got to wait 45 minutes to get back to a full charge if you're at one of those supercharge stations, and then you continue your next 285, and then you got to do the same thing again. Whereas if we had the solar panels, that's why I feel like you could drive all through the day and you're constantly charging the car.
You'd be great. And like I said, I don't think that that's probably too far off. I think it's like anything, when they release the first versions of stuff, it's always going to be improved upon. And
it always is.
Right. Well, and then on the flip side of that too, you can't always just give the consumer everything right out the gate because, where you put your focus is where your strengths are going to be. So I think that, first things first, let's get this car on the road. We've talked about self-driving cars. You're really starting to see that capability come into play. Now, what are like the next versions and iterations of the Teslas? Like, what does a Tesla look like 5 years from now, in terms of all the technology and capabilities that are built into it? I can definitely say I am wanting to get one. So at some point in the future, you will definitely see your boy rocking a Tesla. And that's a fact. Until now, I will live vicariously through my friends that have them. And But yeah, it just seems like a smart investment. It seems like a great way to be, environmentally friendly and just kind of being considerate.
Yeah, I mean, we want to definitely
around you.
Yeah.
In fact, I have a buddy of mine. His name's Rock. He goes by Rock.
It's The Rock.
The Rock. Yeah, Dwayne Johnson.
Oh wow, I didn't know you're friends with him.
Roscoe Robinson. He just started a new company that he's had going now for like the last. I don't know. I've known this guy for probably 10, 15 years, somewhere in that range, but it's called eCara, and it's a new app. You can download it. This is a free advertisement. So, wasn't planned, but here you go, Roscoe. But what he's doing is really cool because you can go download his app. It's eCarra. And
one more time.
Yeah. And if you want to go download that app, it's eCarra, eCara.
Check that out, guys.
What it is it's, very similar to like your Uber or your Lyft style app. But they actually exclusively use a fleet of Teslas. So if you're wanting to, have a, environmentally friendly ride sharing experience, then you can go through eCara. The cool thing about it is they do have a deal where every car ride that you take in one of their Teslas through this app, you're going to the bar for the night, you're coming home from the bar for the night, or you're going on a date. Every ride, they are going to plant a tree. I forget what company that they've teamed up with, but they plant a tree. And so it's just, I think it's brilliant. He's having some great success with it, but it's just an interesting niche. He's not necessarily reinventing the wheel when it comes to it. He's not the first ride sharing service. I mean, obviously we know this with Uber and Lyft, but there is definitely a group of people that is more environmentally conscious, who would love to plant a tree for every time they take a ride. There's also the group of people that just want to look cool. I mean, I personally, you might not think a Tesla's cool. I think a Tesla is awesome, and I know a lot of people that do. And if I could guarantee that every time I get picked up, because let's not lie here. I've gotten hit a Uber X and I'm getting picked up in a car. I'm just like, I don't even know how this thing's on the road. If I have the ability to decide on a Tesla, then I'm definitely going to go with that. I know it's helping out, more than just me getting to my final destination, which I think is a really cool thing. So I think it's only being tested in DFW right now, but they got some really cool stuff going on.
There is there not something too that, and this made me think of it because you're talking about the guys that go and pick, or Uber, I should say. But isn't there somebody that goes, so let's say, for instance, I got out and I got hammered and obviously I can't drive. Was there not a system before that would come and pick you up and then they would drive your car for you, so that way you wouldn't have to worry about going back to get it the next morning? Yeah,
so I forget the name of it, but there was one or two of those in Dallas. And
are they even still around?
I would be surprised. I mean, the thing about that makes it tough is there's a lot of extra cost and a lot more liability. So the way that worked is, let's say you call their number. I think one of them was called Wingman in Dallas, I think was the name. Great name.
Solid name.
Yeah, solid name. But the problem is you call Wingman, they come to pick you up off Main Street in downtown Dallas at 1:30 in the morning to drive your car back home so you get there safe and sound and legally. Well, the issue comes into play. Well, how do they get home? Well, the way they get home is there's basically a follow car. So I
was going to say there's two people. There's the car that you're driving in, yep, and then somebody's driving your car for you.
The idea is great in theory, but you're adding multiple layers to the equation in terms of making it a profitable business. So,
right.
Again, great idea. But when Uber and Lyft and these other ride sharing services come into play, it kind of takes that out of the equation, because at the end of the day, these are businesses, and the most profitable and the best marketed are going to win. So, and it's like anything else. I mean, it's like Blockbuster. When Redbox hits, Blockbuster takes a hit, and then when Netflix hits, Redbox and Blockbuster take a hit. So it's just like the evolution of.
You're always going to be competing against somebody.
And it's just the evolving aspect of it.
Right, and it does. I mean, obviously, it sucks that you see like a bigger company come out and take away a small company. They always say is you always want to help your friends that are in the smaller world of companies than to go and jump into some big company and forget about the guys that helped you from the beginning.
Sure. And one last little technology pivot is kind of one thing that I know you've talked about recently, and I've had a little bit of my own experience. The reason I think this is relevant right now too is you do have CES going on right now, or I think CES might have just ended, but that's like the biggest technology trade show in the world, happening in Las Vegas. All the big tech companies in all different fields, from television screens like Samsung down to car technology from BMW, and what the future of technology is happens at this show. I went to this show a couple years ago, and either went once or twice, and it was cool. One thing I saw a ton of, though, that seemed to be on everybody's mind was virtual reality. So I've had a little experience when it comes to virtual reality. I've had those headsets that you put your phone into. I know that I've experienced Oculus, but Oculus Rift is a big one, and there's a lot of kind of different ways that people are approaching us. And Derek, I think for you kind of fall into like the gaming category, where you probably are experiencing or using virtual reality experience from a gaming side of things. And didn't you just end up getting a couple new?
Yeah. So I've got,
how does that work for me?
So I got a couple different headsets. I'm trying to find the one because it's in the other room and I can't think of the name. But one of them is obviously too that stands out too is the Oculus.
Right. Oculus Rift, I think is,
and the other one I think is called Vive maybe, or,
Yep. You're right.
It is called Vive. Yep. Okay, I couldn't remember which one it was. Now I'm going to get to the Vive in a second, but the Oculus, I bought 2 of them. Actually, I bought 3 of them so that I could be connected with my goddaughter who's next door.
Sure.
And then my other goddaughter, which is Finn. Those 2 guys. We talked about Eric.
Those are the goddaughter's biological fathers.
Yeah, that's
not the goddaughters.
Yes. Unfortunately, we did not get them to be named Eric and Finn. But they something that I saw, and this to me, it doesn't take much to sell me on something. If you show me something that I'm already kind of interested in,
keep that in mind, folks. He is easily sold on ideas.
It is true. But I saw Jonah Hill, and I forget who was with him, but they were at I think it was a Lakers game.
Oh yeah, like sitting courtside basically.
Correct.
From their living room
with their headsets on, right. And they were communicating. So to me, the way that things are going out nowadays is I think we're going to see a lot more of that. The only thing I'm curious from a sporting point of view is, are we going to see kind of, and I know this is way, way off, but you're going to see like empty seats, but with just a bunch of little units. Well, which obviously it's not, because they're all going to be sitting right in that front row.
Right. Well, there's also the idea, and Elon's kind of joked about this before, but okay, so that experience can happen in your living room. Well, is another version of that or iteration of that going to be, we see stadiums coming up, not to have sports played in them, but you're showing up to sit down in a virtual reality seat, and you've got a stadium full of 10,000, 15,000 people who are all sideline at the Super Bowl, for the Super Bowl game. And everyone.
So you're meaning sell more tickets that way.
Right. So, it's kind of like walking into that arena and you just see 15,000 people glued to their seats with goggles on their face. Like they're not actually existing in that arena at that moment. Right.
But technically, do you have to be you don't have to be at a stadium. No,
I'm just saying it could turn into a business model. So just like I could sit there from my home and be courtside. Well, what if I don't have the ability to go purchase the goggles or get the right equipment and all that? Well, our business is going to start opening up. Maybe it's not stadiums. Maybe it's movie theaters.
I would say, more of a movie theater.
Everyone wants to attend. You want to attend the Super Bowl tonight? That's in Los Angeles. Well, cool. You come to your local Cinemark or whatever the company may be, and you got 50 people or 100 people all in the same theater room, all wearing goggles, all experiencing the Super Bowl from the same exact position on the sideline. I mean, I think you're going to see it. It's not just going to be something that exists. There's a business model there, and it's not just going to be something that exists in the living room, because again, that is just pertaining to the people that can get their hands on the equipment, can afford the equipment, et cetera. And I'm sure, down the road, let's talk, 15, 20 years from now, that's probably going to be something that is just standard issue, like a VCR player or a DVD player, once was. It's like, every household is going to gets guaranteed. You have VR headsets, in there. Now you use them from a gaming standpoint.
Well, I'm an avid gamer. I love gaming, and I finally have gotten you back into that gaming world too, which,
shout out Rocket League.
Yes. Yeah. Rocket League is the one
right now. I did make an attempt the other day, at Call of Duty.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And not a great experience. Now, again, it's going to take some practice, but
yeah.
I'm a little detached from the video game world. I was, just so you guys know, level 37, Halo 2, online multiplayer, Team Slayer. And for those of you that don't know what that means, it just pretty much means I'm a big deal.
The levels, those kids have cruised through that. The thing it's crazy, and it goes with the gaming, like playing that is like Harper right next door,
right,
is going to be better than us at gaming before we know it.
Right. So what is like a favorite game of yours to play, and specifically with VR? Because
with the VR, right now what we played, I've been playing a lot of, was Rick and Morty.
Okay.
So you're basically in the cartoon.
Do you feel genuine?
Yeah.
Is there some what part of it feels real, and then what part of it feels
when you've got the handles on and you look down and you see the cartoon hands, and it's your hands, they're moving. That it feels as if you're in this world. Now, that's the thing that kind of scares me a little bit is, are people going to get so attached to this to where they're going to have a virtual reality then? Like I saw in Office is one of my favorite shows. Dwight has he has his second life where he's a regional manager, and he's flying around. So the thing is, I just hope that people don't get so caught up in this that they forget about the actual real world.
Right.
That's the dangerous thing about this virtual, because it is very real. When you put this thing on, like I played golf the other day, I was in my living room swinging just like I was swinging the club. Like it's like real. And I'd hit the ball and I'm literally looking straight down the fairway and I'm watching my ball go down there. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm really golfing.
Right.
You take the time and you look around and it's like I'm standing outside. Now, I get a little motion sickness on certain games.
I've heard that's a fairly common thing. And depending on the hardware you're using, some of it is better for motion sickness, some of it's not. But I have heard that's a thing because your experience, what your eyes are visually and your brain are visually experiencing, there's still that element of like being detached from that. And your brain knows something's going on, but it's not quite sure
how it's happening.
Exactly. So you're
I have that
tricking yourself a little bit.
Right. I have the PlayStation VR too. I'm a big PlayStation guy. Shout out to PlayStation. And so when I play like the VR, like the racing games and stuff, it's so realistic that I can look literally left and right. I'm looking out my windows. I can look behind me. There's a window. I'm looking like I'm in the car. But yet when I'm driving, I'm not really moving.
Right.
Now, the one racing game that I had, I forget which one it is. I have it upstairs. That one, I got a little motion sickness. The other racing game that I had, I didn't.
Okay.
And they both look the same graphic wise. But I have a steering wheel, everything. So I make it kind of as real as I possibly can when it comes to that.
Just think 5-10 years from now, though, where like every sensation that you would experience in a race car
is going to be like in this.
And you're actually able to experience those, like everything from like the wind in your hair to the bug splat on the window while you're cruising down the highway. I mean, I think it's definitely
the virtual reality world is taking over. It's evolved.
I think it's going to be a little while before it gets to that point. And I'm not saying I just think probably I always say 10 years, but I'd say in 10 years it is going to be a completely immersive experience where. And that's kind of the crazy part. And Elon's talked about that before too, is when you get to the point of having a hard time distinguishing between the game or the virtual world and reality. Right. And so like,
that's the dangerous part. That's why I'm saying we have to be careful with that.
Well, totally. And that goes with any kind of technology. I mean, or anything, anything too much of anything I always say is a bad thing. So it's like, it's just finding a balance. But,
well, the other thing too, that I like for me, so obviously, like I said, I'm a big gamer. I have the VR and all that stuff. Is when you're playing these games, you're doing everything,
right? Which
is so trippy,
right?
And you have like a little area you just stay in. That's it. Like the boxing game I have in there. The first time I got that, I was getting into it, and then next thing I know, I took my headgear off and I was sweating. I was like, holy shit! I actually.
Well, yeah, and
because I had no idea that's what it's going to do, which is great.
Cool. It's great. I mean, even think about this. I mean, if that's what you were doing, and it might already exist, but I guarantee you will, just like you can sit there and watch the Lakers game, courtside, you could be in someone's fitness training class. I mean, I know you've got the Peloton bike, right? So
correct. I love that.
Anybody that doesn't know how Peloton works, it's like a Soul Cycle kind of setup, but basically in your home, and you get one of those professional bikes. They bring it, they install it, they show you how to use it, and you are taking live classes with tons of other people all around the world, and you're following the same instructor in real time. It's not pre-recorded, and it's an experience. So I guarantee, take that exact same concept and apply virtual reality.
Well, you can use the they do a live class, and then after that, it's available to everybody. If you don't,
I'm just saying, in a few years, you're going to be able to participate in Richard Simmons.
Oh, you can do it now. Class. You could literally. So when I log in, it'll say such and such has a class right now. They're 5 minutes in. Right. You can still jump in.
Yeah, but think about from a virtual reality standpoint when you're able to do that, and then like you just said,
they react to you,
right, and you're looking at someone or someone you don't know who's all the way across the world, and they're right next to you doing the workout
on that. So even with that, so back to the VR thing, Eric was here playing poker, and this guy was in London, well, he was over in England. So I don't know exactly where.
Sitting at the same poker table,
same table, talking to each other. Yeah. And it was funny because Eric's like looking at him, and he's like, "Hey man, it's your turn. Would you like to make a bet?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm just trying to figure things out." And he's helping him. And then on top of it, this is what's so crazy. It's funny. We're going to you'll get a good little chuckle about it. The guy handed him a cigar.
That's awesome.
Now, clearly he's not, smoking the cigar, but you get it. And it's like the virtual reality life becomes
it's just
life.
The line again between, reality and virtual reality is thinning. So down the road, who knows? Maybe that cigar handoff somehow becomes a more
real
tangible
thing.
Well,
you're going to have it to where something like pops out of your house and here you go. You got a free cigar from such and such.
Well, and then I'm sure, honestly, it could probably, I'd be interested to see how this
it's gonna be like the Jetsons
in the world of sports. Like take you, for example, like I'm sure you study film of different matters and all that kind of stuff. Well, imagine if it gets so good to where you can actually do a full, pitching workout or practice where you have the virtual reality on. They have maybe a baseball that is specifically made for virtual reality that you're physically holding and has sensors in it. So it's got real-time data. You've still got a catcher on the other end, catching this, or maybe you don't have the catcher. Maybe you have a net and you're able to sit there and you're going, you know what? I want to see what it's like to face Derek Jeter. Well, they've got enough data and analysis on Derek Jeter to where you're facing a very closely simulated version of him and actually having a practice with a real physical ball that's going to tell you like, hey, you grazed the corner or you left that up high and inside and he took it over the left field wall, and actually be able to have that experience and without even being there. Or on the flip side of that, maybe you want to work with someone and they're, in a whole nother location. Well, I think virtual reality opens up the opportunity for collaboration at a distance.
I mean, you have that now to where we're using like FaceTime and all that stuff too. But I agree. There's also there's a hockey thing that I just saw not too long ago where this guy was in kind of partial hockey equipment, goalie gear, and they were shooting slap shots. Now it was on a big projector, and then you can see the holes, the slots,
right?
But you don't know which one it's coming out of, and you see the skater come up. But you don't know when he's shooting because in hockey, everything's quick and it could be a slap shot or it could be a quick, a wrister or a slap shot. And so it was real sick to watch as the guy would literally shoot and like you didn't see it at all and it went right by him. So, I mean, it's definitely crazy to see what's going on with all of that. But I mean, the way that technology is taken off, I'm a huge Nintendo guy too. And Mario is by far one of my favorite games.
Okay.
I feel like it's going to come to the point to where you get to be Mario and go through the levels.
Okay. Well, I think that's definitely a possibility. Sorry, I got distracted by our show notes, and then I got distracted by Bob Ross because I saw our show notes. And I was like, why do we have Bob Ross in there again? Oh yeah, because he's an epic
painter.
Being. Well, let's just not label him a painter. He's an awesome human being. I mean, that guy has some of the most like therapeutic stuff you can listen to, encouraging, motivational, friendly, like who's ever going to be mad at that guy kind of conversation on his shows. And I do remember why we brought that up. If you're watching on YouTube, we got the
Bob Ross
pop. What's it called? Do we have a box?
I don't have a box.
I think they're just pop toys.
Pop.
I have this exact same one.
It's pop something.
A couple other ones as well. I have a couple WWE.
But New Day, I got a couple of those too.
I don't have the New Day.
I got that.
I can't even remember who I have.
I don't even know where they are actually.
No, but Bob Ross, I genuinely would grow up watching that. I would turn it
always on PBS.
Always on PBS. Yeah.
There's no happy trees. It's happy thought or no happy thoughts. Just happy trees.
Happy thoughts. A lot of happy action going on.
It was a very peaceful. It's kind of like I bring this example up to a lot of people is. Whatever mood you're in, besides happy.
Right.
If you're pissed off, sad, angry, whatever, you put on Michael Jackson, there's no way you stay in that mood. It's the same way with Bob Ross. You can't watch Bob Ross and be pissed off.
Or even if you are happy, you turn it on and continue that mood.
True. Oh, that's why I said, no, you can't use happiness. But it's the same thing with Bob Ross. When you turned his thing on, you got to like, man, what is this one going to be today?
Well, yeah.
You were intrigued by what was being put on that, the paper,
right.
Not the paper, the painting stuff. We're just going to put it that way.
Yeah. So I actually would, and I still do occasionally, but I will put it as background like noise. Like when I'm working sometimes, like whether it be music or I'm listening to a podcast or a YouTube
so you hear the
or something. Well, it's super peaceful. Like just even him talking, like he's just an encouraging guy. But a goal is I want to own a Bob
painting.
Ross original. Yeah.
You know what's funny? I'm going to look it up too right now. I'm going to see if there's any Bob Ross paintings on Amazon.
Oh, I'm sure there's. Let's see what a Bob Ross original painting would go for. Oh, wow. So, and I don't know who knows if this is legit or not, but there is one signed and titled by Bob Ross, $12,800. Also, looks like you can purchase Bob Ross underwear in the exact same.
I've got the DVD collection. I've got a Chia Pet Bob Ross style, which is sick because the fro.
Yeah, I mean, but Chia Pets, let's be honest.
I know.
How often do they work out and end up looking like the picture? Not
true.
Not very often.
But it's just worth it. It's something cool.
Yeah, so apparently, I'm just reading there were thousands of Bob Ross originals. So it can't be that difficult to get your hands on one. But I say we make that a goal of the new studio. If it's not an original, at least a legitimate Bob Ross print.
Well, I mean, we've got plenty of time to find that.
Studio. Yeah. So if it's original, great. But I will settle for a replica print or copy of an original. But yeah. So I mean, I feel pretty good about the first episode. How do you feel?
I feel like we've killed it. I mean, this is exactly what our expectations were.
You guys can quote him on it. I was just asking a simple question. How do you feel?
I didn't mean to raise my voice on it.
I mean, the standard that you just brought this show to is pretty high, and now we're gonna have to react to that and make every show just as awesome.
No, and that's, I mean, I get all that too, and that's, to me, it's just one of those things that I feel like for a first show, you always start off and you want to give the whole thing of what the show's going to be about.
Right. A little taste test.
Yeah. And I feel like we accomplished quite a lot, to be honest.
Sampling. You're at the store on a Saturday and you're getting to sample all the food that you wanted to try.
Gosh, do you go back for seconds? Do you put a disguise on?
No, I just try to develop great rapport with the person serving the sample.
Ah, okay. I'm more of a guy that I might just come back with the hat on next time.
You go with me to Trader Joe's, it's unlimited samples.
Ooh.
Yeah. I've got it like that.
Is that another plug right there?
Hopefully one day it will be.
I do want to say like one quick thing though, before we, really wrap this up. Two things actually. First thing,
this is where you need to get your Kleenex ready because this is going to be a tearful moment. He's going to thank me for how incredible.
Actually, no, I was going to go for a different tearful moment and talk about my foundation real quick because it's something that I know we meant to talk about earlier, but obviously too many great topics came up. But something that's very true to me, and it's something that I feel like more people should get involved and see in this perspective is. My foundation is 60 feet 6. And basically what I do is I'm dealing with kids with cancer, pediatric cancer.
Okay.
And to me, I was inspired by a kid who has passed away, and it hit me again. And that's why I kind of put it in the notes is the hat that I have here, is actually from the game in Kansas City where, I dedicated it to him, and I actually have his name inside the hat.
And you played in that hat?
Yeah, I played in this hat. This is actual game hat. It says KC Game.
Is that Rangers?
For Briggs, yeah. This is my Texas Rangers. Cool. And this is right before he had passed away. And I gave his parents and him at the time my cleats, my jersey, everything else. I wanted to keep at least one thing for my memorabilia. But the whole story behind the foundation is, a kid that inspired me that had cancer. And you would have never guessed it. His name was Briggs Berry.
I think a friend of ours, Skin Wade, was part of this.
Ben and Skin, actually, from the radio show here in Dallas, the Ben and Skin show, set this all up. And I'm going to go through it kind of quick. I don't want to give the whole story because more than likely I'll probably get a little emotional about it. Is they wanted this kid wanted to meet a Dallas athlete. And I actually wasn't the pick, which is what's cool. Even cooler for me is to become friends with this kid and build that relationship. So Ben and Skin introduced me, I'm just gonna say Ben and Skin. They introduced me to Briggs, asked me to come into the studio, introduced me. He is a Rangers fan. He knew who I was. We became real good friends. They told me his whole story of him going through cancer and leukemia. And the thing that touched me the most is the way that he carried himself.
Yep.
And that's why I try to get more people involved because you don't know what it's truly like until you actually interact with one.
Totally.
Or as we always put it is nobody takes the time to worry about it until it has to really affect them.
Right.
Until it involves
it hits close
them.
to home.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And so for me, I've been going to the hospitals every year. I did it with Texas. And then these past 2 years, I didn't get to because I'm not with a team. So it's not as easy to just go up there and be like, hey, I'd like to go speak to kids.
Sure.
So with that, I got in touch with him. We started talking and he would literally, this is what is crazy about this is he would literally go do his cancer treatments. And then from there, he would go play 9 holes of golf.
Oh, wow.
and they would come and hang out. He hung out with me a couple times, played some PlayStation. I ended up buying him.
He wasn't letting it slow him down.
Yeah, you would have never, ever thought this kid had cancer.
Right.
And he carried himself so well. And it's something that changed my life. Like,
definitely puts things in perspective for you, right?
Yeah, for the better. I mean, it shows you how important things are. And when you, like, for me, if I felt sick or I felt weak when I'm playing the game, it's like there's kids that are actually dealing with things that are worse.
Right.
And for me to sit here and say, I've got a hangnail or, I feel weak today. Just imagine what that kid actually feels like.
Well, and if that's not motivation for someone, then I don't know what is, because I mean, it's a great perspective to.
But it's true. And so, he would come over and he'd play games, and we had a blast all the time. And just the way that he went about his life, and like I keep repeating, there was no shot that you knew that he had cancer.
Right.
Well, it came to the point to where I couldn't get to be around him. He had to go and do his treatment, and he had to stay in an enclosed area. And so I was like, you know what? I want to keep this thing going. We have our support. I buy him a PlayStation. We'd get on and play with each other, because that's the only way we could really react and hang out. Right. And then it came to the point to where, like I said, this game right here, which means a lot to me, is I was rehabbing from knee surgery.
Was in Kansas.
This was in Kansas City. So I had left and I had got to see him. And he had actually started to beat the treatments. Okay. He was pretty much looking up. Okay. And so my first game back was his first game. He was like awake and really, moving around. He was not by any means close to 100%. He couldn't do things on his own.
Right.
And so I went to Kansas City, and I told him, I said, please watch this game. This one's for you and the family, and because we are a family. And so when I got to Kansas City, media, this is unbelievable about Texas. The media covered for me, blew it all up, got it so where everybody could see it on TV. I went out there. When I got on the mound, I wrote Briggs on the back of the mound.
Nice.
So that way he could see he was there.
That's pretty cool.
Pitched one of a very good game. I went 8 innings, 1 run. We ended up losing at the end, but there was more to it than that.
Sure.
And I mean, I felt like he was there.
Right.
And so they got to watch it. They said he was super excited. He was real, getting into it. Down the road, he was getting closer. We're finishing up that month. So that was in September of that month. My last start of the season was when the bad things started happening. Everything started to go south. And he was told he wasn't going to live, and his parents had talked to me, and I had just pitched in Oakland. Against Oakland at home. This is a great game that it's always going to stand out. It stays with me. And I pitched, and as I came out of the game, it was like stat wise, it doesn't matter. But when I came out, John Daniels had come down, and Blake Miller, one of the MLB security guards, had said, hey, Deanna, which was Briggs' mom, had contacted us and said, this is going to be it. We're okay with telling the media why you left. And if you'd like to go be with the family after everything you've been doing for them, please go. And Blake was actually going to get everything set up to where I could get out there and be with them. But I just couldn't do it because, 1, I wasn't ready to say goodbye.
Right.
2, I think that's a very important time to be with your family.
100%.
I know I'm not family, even though we say it.
Sure.
And we felt it, but it's one of those things that, to me, you got to be with your family.
It's an intimate moment.
And the thing that he said to me before he left is, excuse me, is don't try to be something that you're not. Go out there and live your life to the fullest.
Yep. Don't
change who you are. Enjoy life, because you never know what's going to be gone. And from then on, I've always said that. And every time I do my speeches at the charity event and all that stuff, it's always come down to that, because I want people to realize that people try to make us something that we're not. And that makes things difficult for us when we got to be who we are. We're all supposed to be different for a reason.
Correct.
So running through with Briggs, and I've continued his legacy for that, because he's inspired me to be who I am. I know I get criticized all the time for when I play baseball as my personality and doing voices and all that stuff.
Sure.
That's because that's who I am.
Right.
I'm going to live my life and be me. I'm not going to, I know I can't make everybody happy, and I know, I'm not going to be able to do everything I want, but at the end of the day, I'm going to live my life to the fullest, because that's what somebody told me that couldn't get to live the life that they really wanted to.
100%. So the foundation is called the
60 Feet 6. You can go to the website.
Is Briggs. That's
he started everything. And that's why I said, if more people could just take the time to reach out to a kid that's in need, or go to go to a hospital. I'm not saying everybody has to go out there and do that, but it'll change you for the better. You'll see life in a different way because of what these kids are going through. No kid should ever have to deal with that.
And because of that, I mean, you're getting to carry on really the spirit of Briggs, and then just kind of that message, beyond him, where he can't now, but you're obviously able to spread that message even further with the foundation. I know you just had the big event with Top Golf, and had a ton of people come out to that, which that's an annual event that you do every year now.
Yep.
You got your friends in terms of, athletes and all types of people that come through and support, donate items. And really kind of it's the catalyst, the moment where, hey, we're honoring a life, but then on the flip side, we're also trying to save some lives. And that's where the benefit. So what, in terms of the website, how can people...
So if you want to get involved, just go to 60feet6.org.
And is that the numbers are spelled out, or?
It's going to be, 60 feet 6. God, you got me all messed up. .org. They're all numbers except for the feet, obviously. And then the other one you can check out too is DerekHolland45.com. That'll also kind of tie into it. That gets you to it. It also gives you the story of how my foundation started, and it lets you get involved as well, and when the next events are going to happen too.
Cool.
So I think that was something that I feel like that people should get involved. But on top of that, to go from a sad note to a happy note, for those that are on here that got to listen to the podcast, if you're into gaming as well, we've got White T to start doing his thing as well. We're going to start streaming. I'm going to get him more involved in that as well.
Part of the club.
But if you would like to catch me on PlayStation, I'm setting up my Xbox as well. But all my system names so far are it's actually for PlayStation, it's Walker Texas 45. For Twitch, it's Dutch Oven 45. So please get on there, check me out, add me on all the social medias too. It's Dutch Oven 45. We need to get you onto there as well. I know your social media.
I am Young Trop with the Juice.
All right, one more time.
Young Trop with the Juice. But what we'll do is we'll put this in the show notes. You guys will be able to go on there and find that. What's going to happen with the podcast? Future episodes. This is the first of many. Our goal is to start out with just once a week. So you can tune back in next week for the next episode. We'll be launching the website, the social media pages like Instagram and Twitter, so you guys can communicate with us and access directly. We'll even be handing out our email addresses, so we can start getting just hearing what you guys want to hear talked about. If there's stuff happening around the world in technology and sports and whatever you find interesting, nutrition, let us know. People you want to see on the podcast. You're going to start seeing some really cool guests from us, some on location stuff when Derek's out at spring training, and we're just really excited to be able to bring this to the table. So hopefully you enjoyed it. I think episode 1 is a wrap, and I feel pretty good about it.
I'd say it was a freaking great show. Again, thank you guys for all taking the time to listen. Feel free to reach out to us on our social media and let us know what you think. And again, I mean, we look forward to making the next show, that's for sure. So thank you guys all for coming out, and all of you enjoy your secret handshake.
We are out.
Bye.